Good evening, and welcome to the first of our budget hearings for fiscal year 2023-2024 for the City of College Park. I'm Mayor Bianca Motley Broom. We have a quorum present with council members Clay, Karn, and Allen, so I'm calling this meeting to order at this time. It's 6:33 p.m. So I will turn it over to the joint city management team to my right to kick us off, and with the assistance of Ms. Floyd Bradley and her team to talk a little bit about an overview of the budget, where we are, and what to expect over the course of the next few weeks.
I will be very brief, Madam Mayor and Councilman. This is a budget that I know a lot of hard work, dedication, and effort has been placed into it by the staff that I'm quickly getting to know. We'll get to know even more with a 4-hour session that I think we've got planned tomorrow. So I am going to defer to the interim city manager, who I know has been very involved and wrote you in the letter of transmittal of the budget. I've had a chance to meet with Outlay and Jackson earlier today, and I have the highest level of confidence in what they're going to be previewing with you this evening.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Myers, did you want anything? Do you have anything to add?
I think he said great words. But yes, we worked hard. We worked for several weeks getting this new budget, and I think that that the finance director and their staff worked due diligently on this, and I think that you're going to be pleased with the results in this budget.
Thank you, sir. And Ms. Floyd Bradley, before you start, let me thank you, your team, the entire staff, for all of the hard work that has gone into this. I know this is weeks of sleeplessness, and I don't know about the blood part, but probably some sweat and tears. We greatly appreciate your efforts to get us to this point and look forward to the discussion. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone.
Evening.
We'll start off with a brief overview of the fiscal year 2023-2024 recommended budget. And the first two items on this slide basically is just comparing the citywide budget, the recommended budget, to the current amended budget. And this figure includes capital projects that were carried forward from the prior year. And that includes the capital equipment that we budgeted for at the end of the fiscal year, and we had to carry forward to 2023. And the same thing for the general fund. The recommended budget is compared to the current year's budget. And Councilman Clay, I'm surprised you didn't catch my third item. It says fiscal year 2022-2023, because you're normally on that. But it should say fiscal year 2023-2024. The recommended budget includes $13.4 million in capital improvements and equipment and vehicle replacements citywide. The general fund makes up $2.4 million of that total. And with the general fund, we did pretty much the same thing we did last year. We took one-time expenses, considering that we did defer that, not the capital, but the debt service. This is our last year where those funds will be available. So what we did do this year as well is fund those one-time capital expenses as well as operating expenses with those, with the available dollars in hotel, motel, and car rental tax. And the recommended budget was prepared using the current operated millage rate of 13.619. The next slide is basically just shows you the whole budget, $170,045,548 is how it's broken up into different funds, with the general fund making up 26% of that total, and the enterprise funds, which is your utility funds, water, sewer, sanitation, electric fund, makes up almost 60% of that overall budget. And your special revenue funds such as T-SPLOST, SPLOST, MOST now account for 15% of the overall budget. Okay, the citywide revenue sources summary schedule, it provides a 3-year history of revenue sources, by sources and by department. The top 3 revenue sources for the recommended budget for fiscal year 2024, charges for services, which accounts for nearly half of the city's revenue citywide at 47.9%. This is primarily due to the fees for providing electric, sanitation, and those type of utility services. The second largest revenue source is our tax revenue, which accounts for 31% of the city's revenue. And some examples of your tax revenue are sales tax, ad valorem tax, car rental tax, and now your most tax. The third largest revenue source is your transfers from other funds. It accounts for 11.5% of your overall budget. Just making sure I'm on the right screen. The next slide shows citywide expenses by fund and by category. When compared to fiscal year 2023, the citywide recommended expenses shows an increase of less than 3%, almost 3%. And there are several factors which make up the increase in expenses citywide. The increase in debt service, it increased by $4 million, and $2.3 million of that total is related to the T-SPLOS debt issued in fiscal year 2022. There is now an additional debt service of $2.3 million, and that makes up the difference. And the other difference between the 4 and the 2.3 is basically some of that debt that we did defer. It's basically we have to start repaying the principal this year. 2024, 2025 is when we'll start back making those $6+ million payments, principal payments. We also have increases in operating expenses citywide, and that is primarily due to the increase of power sales with the new contract and the increase in usage for those 2 companies. That did increase our operating cost. And last but not least, personnel services. It accounts for 24% of your overall city expenses. Now on to the general fund. The pie chart breaks out the makeup of the general fund revenue sources, with property tax representing 37.5% of the general fund revenues. Other taxes, again, franchise fees, mixed drink tax, and local option sales tax account for 25.7%. License and permits accounts for 10.1%, and the transfers in from other funds makes up 22.5% of the general fund revenues. Now, your tax dollars represent 37.5% of general fund revenues, and what this diagram does is break down your tax dollars into the general fund functions. I'll move on to the next slide, so basically you can see what I am referring to. And that goes to show that your public safety accounts for almost 60% of your tax dollars. Your general government consists of the city clerk's office, city manager's office, finance, city council, purchasing. Those all account for your general government functions, and that accounts for 17% of your tax dollars. Parks and Recreation, 11%. Public Works, which does not include your enterprise funds such as water, sewer, and and sanitation. That's primarily your buildings and grounds and streets account for 6%. Community development, to my right, they account for 3%. Inspections, engineering, and debt service account for 1% each. I have to note that 2 of the debt services did fall off for fiscal year 2024, and there is a net new debt service for the new fire truck that was purchased. Well, it was purchased, we haven't received it, but we will be paying the debt service before we actually receive the equipment. But I just wanted to note that because I did not update it on this spreadsheet. But two of the debt services, the Motorola radio equipment, that did fall off, and the truck payment from 2017 to 18, that did fall off as well. And a new one will be added on. And that total is $339,000. And that makes up your general fund expenses based on your tax dollars paid to the city.
Althea, I
Yes,
got
sir.
a question.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned with Public Works, some of the expenditures are in another line. Is it in engineering here, in one of the 1 cent pieces in your
Engineering
diagram?
should have its own line item. Engineering is 1% of the overall city general fund budget. It's the general fund.
Okay.
Public Works general fund is just your buildings and grounds and streets. Now, if you refer, sanitation is a totally different fund.
Okay. That's not under general fund expenditures?
No, sir.
Those
That's
are
enterprise, right?
That's an
Okay.
enterprise fund.
All right.
Please proceed.
Althea,
Yes,
when you say X percentage of the tax dollar, or a certain number of cents of the tax dollars, are you breaking down that amount based on the total expenses in the general fund and saying basically, well, if we had $1 funding the whole general fund, this is how it breaks down?
yes, sir.
It's not based on the fact that this is how your real estate tax dollars break down per se.
No,
I just wanted to clear that up, that it is total expenses. Pretend you had $1 and it was all coming out of your real estate tax dollar pocket.
correct.
That's how it would break down.
Yes, sir.
But in actuality, the funding of the general fund is only little over a third of the real estate tax.
Correct.
I just want to clarify that for the folks at home.
That is correct. Thank you. Okay, the general fund's schedule shows the history of the general fund expenses for the past 3 years by department and by category. The recommended budget is, again, 3% more compared to the fiscal year 2023 amended budget. The increase is primarily due to salary increases. I did budget a 5% increase across the board. And there is also an increase in operating because there were one-time expenses budgeted under operating. For instance, I'll give you an example of one, the fire department. They are requesting to replace their, I think it's the fire safety gear, and they want to replace them all, and it's costing us $300,000. I did use one-time expenses from hotel motel to fund that expense, but that's why you see there's such an increase in your overall operating increases, because there are some one-time requests to replace just uniforms, and they come at a steep amount.
One question on that.
Yes.
We have been staggering the fire department expenses for consumables over several years. Like we'll have a third 1 year, a third the next year, a third the third year. I don't know whether that's 3 years or 2 years. I think it was about 3.
3.
Now the fact that we have bought them all in 1 year, does that mean that then only every third year we're going to get hit with that expense? My question is, how do we spread that out now? Because I would think the equipment would get worn out about the same point in time.
I think, I would let the chief speak to that, but I believe they get worn out on an annual basis.
I'm sorry, could you speak a little?
The uniforms are worn out on an annual basis. As soon as they replace it, it's almost like they have to, as soon as they purchase it, it's almost like they have to replace it immediately after. But they've been staggering it because due to cost, so this year he asked that we replace them all. But that would be a question for Chief
Yeah, because what comes to mind is now, we've bought into the idea of spending that quantity of money every year instead of spread over a period of 3 years.
Well, the thing, with this year, what I did recommend the departments do is request those one-time items now, because the hotel motel funds won't be available next fiscal year. When I say next fiscal year, 24, 25. But since we have those one-time expenses, go ahead and put in for those, so that's what he did.
I'm just anticipating next year. I won't be here next year, but I'm anticipating.
And also, Ambrose, those uniforms, well, there's two different categories. Now, uniforms you may replace on an annual basis, but turnout gear is another set of gear. That's the heavy-duty flame retardant.
Right.
And the apparatuses. I don't think they replace that every year. Now, regular standard uniforms, I think probably
Yeah,
will have
they
more
don't.
often, but-
So which are we talking
But
about?
which one was the three-year, was it the turnout gear or, just curious?
I think when we get to the fire department
I
and the
understand.
actual,
Well,
wait, hold on a
I'd
second,
like-
Councilman, hold on one second. When we get there, I think we'll have the opportunity to delve into this in detail.
Okay, that's
But Ms.
fine.
Fuller Bradley was using that as an example, and the chief is not here to answer those questions about
Okay.
turnout gear
So
versus
it could have
uniforms.
been
And-
one or
excuse me,
the other,
Councilman,
right?
Councilman, excuse me.
Well, you interrupted me.
Councilman,
I was
this is not a
speaking.
tit for tat. I'm speaking,
Well,
please.
I was speaking.
Councilman,
was that
Ms.
turnout
Fuller
gear or
Bradley,
uniform
Ms.
gear?
Fuller Bradley, please proceed. I don't want to get stuck on this,
Okay,
on this
Miss,
fire
I'd just like to
issue.
get my
If you want to
question
talk to her
answered.
after,
I
that's
don't want to
absolutely
talk
fine.
after, I want to ask her now. Was that turnout gear or uniforms, or do you, could it be either one?
It's the turnout gear, it's the.
Okay, thank you.
It's the heavy equipment, heavy
I
duty.
appreciate that.
Next item, personnel expenses account for 65% of the total general fund budget, which is illustrated in the pie chart. The next slide is just the 10-year history of the general fund's taxable property values and operating millage rate. 2020, fiscal year 2023 is the first year, and I think first time in 12 years that we've increased the millage rate.
That particular position is already filled, though.
I'm sorry?
Is that, this is a request for funding of that position that's already filled.
We're on the 10-year history of general funds taxable.
I'm sorry.
We're on the 10-year history of general funds slide. That's,
Oh, I beg your pardon, I jumped ahead.
okay,
Sorry.
no problem. Okay, I think you probably know this. No, this isn't it. Major increases, I put general fund, but it's citywide overall, all funds. I have it broken down. The employee increase, I budgeted a 5% cost of living increase across the board, and the costs associated with it, broken out into general fund and other funds. And the same with capital equipment, which was at the beginning of the overview, which broke out the cost and
Is that 5% increase an increase over, based on all the increases that we've given so far, the 20% to the fire, police, and 15 plus 5 to the fire, and so forth? So
based on their current
it's an
salaries.
additional 5% on top of that. And I presume it will be adjusted for what we approved the other night for for the emergency service phone answers.
Oh, are you, okay, that's. the-
911.
Okay, 911, okay. I'm not, I haven't been
That probably won't be should be factored in, though, at some point.
at some point,
Yeah,
but it wasn't
okay.
in this budget.
It's
Hold
gonna,
on one second.
it's
Hold
gonna
on,
need
wait.
to be probably, but I think, the general fund costs, so this 5%, the 20% for police, the 20% for fire, this is the 5% you factored in for next year on top of all of those increases, right?
Correct.
That was my
Okay.
question.
Gentlemen, I would ask,
All right.
please, can we hold our questions until Ms. Fuller Bradley has completed her
Well, Mayor, I may have some
presentation?
questions in between for everyone.
And
and
Councilman,
can I please
Councilman,
finish?
again, I actually was talking there, and you did cut me off. And
Well,
so
you cut me
I
off
would-
when I was talking.
And
about 3 minutes ago.
And we are not on the playground, and this is not middle school. And so I would ask all of you to hold your questions until she gets through her presentation, and then we will go right down the line and answer any questions you might have. Please proceed,
Well,
Ms.
Mayor,
Bradley.
excuse me, Ms. Bradley. I may have questions in and in between, just like anyone else, and I want to get them answered.
Ms.
Now,
Floyd Bradley?
If I could please finish, you just interrupted me. If I can finish, thank you.
Sir?
I'm going to finish. Now, if you have somewhere else you need to be, don't let us hold you up, but I'm going to take my time and get all of my questions answered this evening, whether you like it or not. So,
Ms. Floyd Bradley, I'd like you to finish your presentation, and everyone can have all the time they'd like to answer your questions afterward. So please proceed.
I may have questions in between, and I'm going to ask them.
And Ms. Floyd
And I'd like to
Bradley,
get them answered, just
as
like
the chair
everyone
of
else
this,
here.
as the chair of this proceeding, I would ask that you please continue your presentation, and then we will answer all the questions at the end. Thank you.
There were some requests for positions in fiscal year 2024. We were able to include some in the budget and some we weren't. We left it up to the council to decide on how they would like to move forward with the position and as far as the funding, of course. There is a position budgeted, new position request budgeted for the executive assistant, for the executive department, and it is a executive assistant to the mayor and council. Overall salary and benefits cost with $71,315. There is a request for a part-time position in HR. Overall cost for the part-time position, including fringe benefits, $12,683 for a total funded position request of $83,998. The arena requested 2 positions with a reclass to full-time for 1 position. Total cost $125,880. That was funded. The golf course as well requested a reclass of from a part-time to a full-time position. The overall cost $21,326 to make that a full-time position. Convention center position reclass, no change in personnel costs, and the same with customer service. There's a position reclass request, no cost overall for that reclass.
Althea, if this
Councilman,
executive assistant
Councilman, I've asked,
salary,
Councilman, you're out of
If-
order. Councilman, I would ask that you let her finish her entire presentation, and we will get your questions answered.
I have questions in between,
Sir, please just
just
save
like
them.
everyone else does. Well,
Save-
I may not be able to save the questions. I
Please
have a
write them
question.
down. Please,
Althea, I
Councilman.
have a question.
Ms. Fleur Bradley, finish your presentation.
Althea,
No,
I'd like to know
no.
if the executive assistant
you are
position,
out of order.
if that kicks in for July, or if, in the event that that person is hired before July, which it may be, what does that look like? Is that amount for July, starting July only?
Ms. Fleur Bradley.
Mayor, I hate the conflict, but staff is to follow the direction of the chair of the meeting, the mayor. Finish your presentation.
The position consideration that were requested but not funded, economic development, they requested 2 additional positions, total overall, with a vehicle. Total overall cost, $258,360. Information technology requested an additional position, cybersecurity administrator. I'm sorry, that actually was reclassed. They had a position, network administrator, is that correct, Mr. Hicks? Network administrator that they reclassed this fiscal year and the council approved to cybersecurity administrator. However, they're asking to add that position back, the network administrator position, they want to add that back, and that cost is $90,000. I have the incorrect title for IT, because he did have that position reclassed already. He just wants to add back the network administrator. Recreation facilities would like to add a position, overall cost $71,942. And business license is asking for a reclass of a position. The additional cost to reclass the business license position is $20,323. And that's a total general fund unfunded position request of $440,756. Although we did fund over, $13 million in capital equipment, there were some things that we did not include in the budget for the general fund. It's all listed. Overall cost of those items not funded. Some of them were new initiatives requested. When the departments come up to state their case, they can vouch for or, try to have those positions added. Or not position, but capital items added. Total cost is $2 million. And other funds that requested capital equipment that we could not fund, they're listed as well. Overall cost for other funds, $559,229. And here are the dates for the next budget meetings. We have one coming up Thursday, same time, same place. And any questions?
All right, Councilman Clay?
Okay, well, I'm going to just go through, based on where I've got bookmarks and maybe redundant, but we'll see what we can do here. I think one of the difficulties that we have here is that up until recently, the last, 2 years, we haven't had these meetings in this chamber. And just the nature of the chamber necessitates almost that you go one by one through that. And we're used to working in the conference room when it wasn't broadcast live, and there's been very poor attendance. And it's difficult, and I don't know what's going to happen when we get to the line items, but it's difficult to be able to play back and forth. You tend to want to go in sequence, and that's hard to do. And I think that's part of the problem that we're having. So let's see where I had some things marked up here. So I guess we decided to go and talk about the executive assistant to the mayor and city council when we get to legislative, or can we talk about that here?
Mayor? Because Chavela's, actually it's not in your budget.
That's in the executive.
It's an executive, and that's not until,
That's tonight.
No,
No,
legislative.
legislative.
Wait a minute.
is tonight.
executive isn't until April 12th, so I guess you
Well,
could ask
well,
your question.
okay, so we're not going to talk about that tonight.
No.
Okay. If I understood you right, we approved, this is on page 13 of your presentation. We approved for information and technology, the cybersecurity administrator a while back. And the intent was that we would reclass the network administrator to that.
Correct.
Now that we've got that very important position identified, we are saying, oops, well, we still need a network administrator. And so that position is not what's being requested. What's being requested is network administrator.
Correct.
And God knows we need probably both. But, and I was totally in favor of cybersecurity. Don't get me wrong. If anybody up here is, I'm probably paranoid enough to do that. But the bottom line is, it almost feels like bait and switch to me personally. That, hey, we need this really important position. Move this guy over here. Oh, but wait, we got to fill this other position. And I have a little bit of an issue with that. And I'm sure we'll go along with it at some point in doing it, because we do need a good network administrator, and we probably need both the positions. But I just don't like quite the way we got to it. So we're talking about legislative tonight. Is it fair game to talk about legislative now, or should we wait on the vehicle, the new vehicle for legislative, till we get to legislative?
I think you should wait till you get to legislative.
Pardon?
I think you should wait till you get to legislative.
Okay. And, well, almost all these questions in detail then, in theory, will get answered at some point during the next 5 meetings.
Correct.
And I also have an issue that we have a council meeting. The day after a council meeting, we have a budget meeting, and this is not addressed to you. But, and then 2 days later, we have another budget meeting, and then next week, we have 2 budget meetings. And it seems like we are really, really compressing this budget review, and that's bothersome, because this is probably the most important thing we do during the year.
We had to work within your schedules, all 5, so.
Pardon?
We had to work with all 5 schedules, so we got in where we could fit in.
Yeah, I understand. I think these meetings need to be long, and we do need, I agree with the mayor, though, we do need to do them in the proper order and so forth, but I'm just concerned about that. Okay, so we'll do the other questions later, and hopefully I'll remember all of them, probably will. So I'll pass it on to Mr. Karn.
Councilman Carr?
Yeah, Thea, overall, like Ambrose said, doing this out here is very disjointed. And the way things are regulated makes it near impossible to have open discussion for anything. This is the most important document, and obviously the residents' money. So any and every question that we ask, I think, is important, so we can get an understanding of the decision we make in terms of how to spend it. I think it's hard to make that decision when you're restricted by all of these rules and guidelines that were put together by somebody. This body didn't discuss how we were going to do this. This is obviously not the right setting to do this in. But nevertheless, here we are. Looking at these pie charts overall, one of the things that does jump out to me is the percentage of public safety as opposed to things like inspections and I think fines and forfeitures, for example. A lot of times, you know, the more you have of one thing, the less you need of another. I've seen in other cities where, you know, you can push public safety and you figure that's the solution to a lot of your problems, but a lot of the times it may not necessarily be. My dad grew up in South Central Los Angeles, and you know, throughout the late 80s and 90s, the gang problems were absolutely out of control, and they threw more money at it than you'd believe in terms of policing, and thinking that was the obvious solution to the problem, and it did absolutely no good until a point where the council got together and realized, obviously, that may not be necessarily working, so they did a few other things in terms of increasing inspections. They did some things, and particularly with parks and recreations. They tripled down on the budget in parks and recreations. They tripled down on it. And at that point, crime really started to dissipate. They figured out, you know, you can outspend, you know, some of your problems in other areas where you would think the obvious area would be public safety and a matter of public safety. And we spend so much of our dollars on public safety because that seems to be the obvious solution to it. But a lot of the times you'd be surprised, you know, that some of these other departments may be a big part of the solution where you could eliminate the need for so much public safety leaning, you know, public safety oriented budgets. I always say a lot of these departments are public safety in a sense. Inspections, I think that's public safety. Community development, I consider it public safety. Parks and rec, I definitely consider it public safety. Because at the end of the day, one of the big reasons for these outfits are park and rec. A part of that is to, limit the chances of all heck breaking loose and to manage our young people in particular, giving them something to do. So, it's a lot of connections here, and I just look at overall in terms of the direction that we go in. And, we push in this direction every year and we mean well, but I want us to just take a closer look at some of the things we're doing and the efficacy of them and what we're getting in terms of results. You can put together results in a lot of ways with different, data and put it together where you can make the data say whatever, just about what you want it to say in a sense. But overall, I'm just hoping we take a little more time out and talk through a lot of this stuff and really kind of figure out the best direction in terms of what we're going to be spending here, if we're just going to keep doing the same things over, and are we going to get better results? So it's just something to think about, I think, in terms of some new ways of reducing some of the issues that we're dealing with. Crime being a big one, cleanliness standards and all of this. I'm not necessarily happy with where all of our money is going. Do I think it's going in the best places? Well, I guess yes and no. But all right, let's keep going.
Councilman Allen, any questions?
Just a couple of things. We got together this afternoon. You cleared up a few things for me. I just think it's important that when we do get together with the departments, and first of all, I think I've worked with budgets for years, and this summary I think is fantastic. So
Thank
I hope
you.
it's on the website
It
for
is.
everybody to see. You ought to take a look at it because it does answer, a lot of the questions. But I think it's important that when we do go through the budget, that we sit down with the department heads so we can find out why they want certain things, why they would rather have this position funded rather than another one, and the reason why they think that they're unfunded should be funded. So again, we'll get to those when we talk to the department. So I appreciate all the work you've done on this and your team. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Ms. Floyd Bradley. All right, so our first department is economic development.
Yep.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
Good evening.
All right, so we will start on, it is packet page 17 for those of us who are doing it electronically. It is page 1 of 3 of the economic development. And I had a question on the very first line 51, 5010. Does that increase reflect
Sorry, 5210.
I'm sorry, 51-5010? Personnel services, salary operating?
Oh, this will probably be an Althea question. These are populated by finance.
Could you speak into the mic, please?
The personnel questions would be issued.
Okay.
Line 51-5010. Does that number reflect a full year of an additional staffer?
No,
Okay,
that's the current staff.
okay, because there's a 19% increase. So where is
Yes.
that?
That includes, yes, that includes the new hire,
So it's a
which-
full year of that person?
yes.
Okay, all
I
right.
thought you meant an additional person.
No. I know that we have a new person in the
Okay.
department who
But
hasn't
yes.
been here the entire fiscal year. So
Yes.
I thought that was where we might see that increase.
And that's the
Yes.
reason for the health insurance and other things popping up.
That is correct.
Okay,
I see the pensions increased as well and some of the others. Do you have any vacancies, Michelle?
No, we do not have vacancies, just the two requests for two additional.
Okay, so the code compliance supervisor and the code compliance administrative assistant, those are the requests?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So they're in this salary operating line? No. They're not in it? Okay.
Line 5215,
You're stealing mine.
that one got zeroed out. Did that get shifted elsewhere in the budget to use, was it car rental or hotel motel tax?
Yes, that was accidentally placed in the wrong line item, which was corrected by finance.
All right. And line 5240. And this is going to be a general question about telephone. It goes up on some people's budgets, it goes down on others. Where are these numbers coming from? Why is there a 59% increase in telephone?
We received the allocation and breakdown from the IT department,
Can we?
and that's where the allocation comes from.
This is going to be a general question that I have, and just in terms of how that breakdown occurs per department. Because it seems, it just seems inconsistent across the board.
Okay. Mr. Hicks, can you shed some light?
What I can say is that we started working with the IT department during the, while we're putting this budget together. There were some inconsistencies in how the departments were charged, and my staff and Demetria West, they've worked together to basically get those charges in the correct department so that it's recorded in the correct department. And a lot of the accounting has been updated based on the allocation on based on the bills that we were provided with. So she basically went through each bill. They went through the bills to identify the departments which the charges should be allocated to. So their budget schedule was updated based on that. So I'll let Ms. Demetria West speak more on that piece.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
So just in regards to telephone for everyone, I do speak on behalf of my team. Those numbers were submitted yearly incorrectly. So the numbers were incorrect, and that's why there's such an inconsistency. I did, like Ms. Fullard Bradley said, I went in each bill to check to make sure that each bill is billed correctly per department based off of the actual bill, because before they were not being billed properly. Going forward, those numbers should be more consistent with what we are basing it off of from this year. So last year and the year before that, we do apologize, but those numbers were incorrect. The numbers were put in incorrectly. They weren't done by averages. They were kind of just pulled from out of thin air.
How were they done? How were they computed? I don't quite understand. I thought we just prorated it across the departments based on the number of personnel or the number of phones or what have you.
So add some clarity to what Demetria just said. They were prorated based on Comcast, Verizon. There are 4 or 5 different bills within that line item, okay? So once we started to really look at the bills, they were not done correctly.
They weren't budgeted correctly, or they weren't charged?
They were not allocated correctly. And so we fixed that. We went through each one of those bills, Comcast, Verizon, AT&T, and we submitted the charges properly based on how many people you have, how many phones you got, how much data usage. We tried to fix that.
So you changed the allocation. What you're saying is the allocation algorithm that you used was done incorrectly,
Yes.
or that they used or previously used, and that you corrected the algorithm. So now they're being allocated based on whatever's appropriate.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And it's been done that way for quite some time, but it's time that we fixed it, and we fixed it this year.
Mr. Hicks, when you, how do we receive the bills? And do we just get one bill for the entire city for all of these?
Yes,
So, okay.
for the Windstream bill, the Comcast bill, the AT&T bill.
So in the past, the prorating just hasn't been done properly?
It's not been done properly, and we fixed it.
Well, that explains a lot based on what we've seen over the years, Mayor.
Mike, a couple of questions. I know the entire staff doesn't get cell phones, obviously. So we use different cell phone providers or whatever have you. Have we ever looked at just one provider for everybody, or does that make sense?
We have one provider, and that's Verizon. But keep in mind, you have a cell phone and you have a data plan,
Okay,
and you pay for both of those.
all right.
And so you've got X amount of people in your department, you pay X amount for the cell phone, you pay X amount for the data usage.
Gotcha, okay. I got line 5280, other communications. So this may not be you. I think this, just looking at what was removed, because it's a small amount of money, but it's a drastic reduction there.
That's sanitation, stormwater, utility charges per department. The finance department went in and updated that.
So it reduced, it's communications utility.
Yes.
So it reduced
we-
it across the
we-
board?
Yeah, we
everyone?
reduced it across the board. We had a 7% increase. We took it back down to what, 3%? Yeah, because we had a 7% increase across the board, so we took it back down to 3%.
Okay. Line 5700, repair and maintenance vehicles. Why so much of an increase? Looks like it just about doubled there.
We moved the, code enforcement was moved from police to, economic development. This is their second, this is their first full year, right? This is their first full year, this fiscal year, so that's just incorporating those vehicles, because prior to that, there was only one or none.
So this is for code enforcement vehicles moving to economic development.
Correct.
And an increase in number
We added a
of
vehicle.
code enforcement
There was a
vehicles.
vehicle added
Right.
last year? Yes, there was a vehicle added.
And speaking of vehicles, I saw the Ford Explorer that said it's not doing too well. I don't know, what's the mileage on that vehicle? Because I didn't see any mileage on it.
Give me one moment.
There's not a page for this, I don't see, but just the 08 Explorer. This is the one you want to replace, right?
Correct. My apologies. I did focus on the year. As the officer at the time was out in the field, the vehicle is 16 at this point and has had issues over the years.
Okay, so we don't know the mileage?
Not offhand, no, but I can provide that information to you.
Okay, well, normally when we have the vehicles, you want to make sure we put the mileage on them. Now, I see this matrix here, vehicle inventory list, and I see 3 vehicles, but I see a 2007 Ford Explorer. Is that actually the 2008 Explorer? Here in this small list, it's kind of hard to read, but,
Yes, sir. As far as I had 2 documents, one was dated in 2007, another was dated in 2008. So I went by the information provided. So
Okay, well,
once again, I can pull it to verify, but I can't state it at this current time.
okay, so we don't know the mileage. We don't know, do we know the year, 08 or 07?
I have conflicting documentation received. So I cannot verify currently if it was a 2007 or 2008 because the documents received conflict.
Okay. This is a vehicle that someone drives?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay, so we just, well, all right, well, if we get, you know, with all the vehicles, usually we have the mileage on them.
I understand, sir. My apologies.
I've got a question on the line 525730. The DB equipment has gone up by 775%. And it's gone from an actual of 4,176 to 41,000.
Yes.
That's
What?
SageGov in Lake, right? Yeah.
Pardon?
SageGov
SageGov and
accounts
Tyler.
for a good
Well,
deal of it.
I looked at the list of things. I understand what's in the list.
Okay.
What I don't understand is why the list is suddenly there. We did not have any of this previously. We didn't have any of those things that are listed for that line item in the detail.
So the information that's being requested under this line item has been asked for year after year. The increase of the amount is because of the addition of SageGov. So there's nothing added except for SageGov that we did not previously have. Oh, I'm sorry, and DocuSign.
Yeah,
Well, that makes no sense. You went, the line item went from actual 2023 of 4,176. Now that should be as of the end of the third quarter of the fiscal year. So if you take a third of 41 and add 13, let's say, on, that's 41, 51, 54, and yet we're projecting 41,348. So something doesn't make sense.
I think with SageGov, the initial year was captured under inspections. So this year, am I correct? This fiscal, well, 2023, 2024. Oh, well, I was, sorry, thank you. 2023, 2024, it's been allocated to the various departments that will be using those, using that system, which is development services, inspections. They're basically allocating out the services amongst those departments that will be using that software.
So.
And that's the maintenance cost, am I correct, Mr. Hicks? That's the maintenance cost across the board.
Okay, so what you're saying is, we did have this capability last year, but it was inappropriately allocated to this particular line item.
No, we purchased the system, and the entire cost is captured under inspections.
And now it's
The
been,
maintenance, as far as the annual maintenance cost, it's now being allocated amongst the various departments that will be utilizing this system.
wow. So, we're talking, so should I expect then that from all the other departments that are using it, we're going to see a 775% increase?
Absolutely. We've got 4 to 5 major departments that's gonna be using that software. Remember, let's not have amnesia. We've been
No,
asking for that software for years. Inspection, code enforcement, zoning, customer service, all of that, we've been asking for that. So we've got it out of the test
Okay.
environment, and so we have to allocate the cost.
Okay, so the actual cost of the equipment is in inspections, is that correct?
The money was allocated originally in inspections
Right.
this year, but in year 2024, it's gonna be allocated among all of those other departments.
And you're saying the maintenance was also allocated?
Yes,
So we're back to the fact that it was allocated before, but it was all in one place, now it's being spread out.
well, it was in inspection budget originally,
Yeah, that's what I'm
Okay.
saying.
and then in 2024, it's gonna be
Okay,
allocated.
got it. Well, we clearly needed the software,
Absolutely.
no question about that, but now I understand it's an allocation issue. Okay,
When are we gonna start implementing the SageGov? when does it kick in terms of, when do these departments get the software and when
Well,
does it go into?
we are very close. We're at the UAT test,
Okay,
the user acceptance test. That means code enforcement, inspections have uploaded all of their information, and we're verifying that information is real. So once we verify all the information is real, then the next stage is to engage customer service.
okay.
But we gotta make sure that all of the information that those departments have uploaded is valid.
Yeah, I've been here before when we've gotten new software, and some has worked out okay, a lot of it hasn't worked out too great. A lot of the issues was the training on it, and this isn't necessarily your wheelhouse, but I guess, how much have we budgeted for training for Sage Gov? Or have we budgeted for that?
Yes, sir, well, the training is allocated in the maintenance cost. And Jackson been copied on the email, so he's been pushing pretty hard to make sure that we stay on track with it.
Okay, that's a good deal. Under that Sage Gov line on the same page here, Tyler NW, this
That's New World.
10,005, that's New World.
Right,
Okay.
so what we're trying to do is, we're trying to put New World in the cloud. We're trying to get it off-prem and put it in the cloud. Because when we put New World in the cloud, then that lessens the cybersecurity concern. Because now the company is hosting it. They're responsible for the SLA. They're responsible for the upgrade. They're responsible for cybersecurity.
Councilman Allen?
Okay, I had a couple of things. One, I couldn't find it. 5530, you had requested,
5530, we're not even on that page yet. Let me make sure there aren't any other questions on page 1.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions on page 1? All right, moving on to page 2, 5530. Go right ahead.
5530, you had requested 40,000, and of course, it went to 0 for municipal planning. Is that something that we need to be looking at, or that, I don't want to miss out on something. That's why I was.
We had put in, for the match, in the BIDA, the match for the LCI that we had, you all had allowed us to push for the grant. So that's actually in the BIDA, so I think that's why it was removed here, as the understanding that.
Okay, so that was
the-
moved from there
yep.
into the BIDA, okay. The other thing was 526130, miscellaneous services, 55, and then you had 15,000. And you have on here Old National Arts. What is the Old National Arts?
So we would like to create an art program centric to the Old National area. We would like to have funding to be able to leverage for grant, as well as to request a art mural to be done for that area.
Okay, so that's the 15,000, right?
That, as well as there is an Old National facade grant. We would like to incorporate comments from the fire marshal to expand the grant to also include fire suppression, as a lot of the properties are aged in the area, and we would like to assist them to bring them up to the current code.
Okay.
Ken, where's that at?
That's line 526130.
526130.
61, I see it, Old National Arts, okay.
Is there a typo in line 526240? Should that be 720 instead of 7200? Is it because the,
Where are you,
It
Mayor?
says 6240,
526240?
6240. These things are not, oh, I see it,
For the auto
auto
auto allowance.
These things are not in numerical order.
Yeah, they're, oh, you know what? I apologize.
It's $7,200,
Yeah,
4,800 plus 2,400.
No, I apologize because I think there was something about it. I don't know. There was something when why did it go from your request of 750 to 7,200? Was that?
It was an error, the request
Oh.
was an error.
I see. Okay. All right. And line 547500. Oh, we already did that.
7,500. Land,
So within this budget year, we did, or you the BIDA gave approval for
That's,
finding the
finding the
Flint.
Flint.
Being that we're coming to the end of this budget year, we wanted to ensure that the funds would be available. So, currently, we just want to ensure that the funds will be available in either budget year.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. Any other questions on page 2?
Nope.
I don't think I see anything else. It is, all looks, 7360, admin supplies was a sharp decrease from what was requested. What happened there?
It was just a reflection of what our actuals were.
So you asked for 10 and you realized you only needed 2,500?
Look back at it.
They only used 186, Joe, this past year.
I say we, that is the
186.
finance
I
director
can't find
pointed
the
out that we
186.
were, needed to
Look
be
at the
more
22
attentive.
Actual.
I see actual 32.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just more in line with actual operations.
Okay, all right. The miscellaneous services, 6130, requested $55,000. The recommendation came back in at 15,000. Okay, what happened there?
So there was an item that we did requested during the budget that was placed for your consideration. It is a project or a program called Mission Serve that is listed as one of the consideration projects. It was $40,000 requested in support of that effort.
And what is that? Mission Serve, what is that?
So Mission Serve is a faith-based nonprofit that helps to connect faith-based organizations with service projects. What they do is they provide housing, food, and all support. The $40,000 requested from the city would be paying for supplies, and in return, their volunteers would provide service projects such as roof repair, safety assistance, as well as property maintenance for property owners within the city of College Park.
Is this the group that was doing
This is
the
out of
work
East Point.
over in East Point?
Yeah, this is out of East Point, isn't it? Or is this a different one?
Yeah, because this
It's
was, I know there was
specifically
a.
It's
there was-
specifically a home rehab assistance, so you can stay in your home longer for those repairs that you may not be able to afford.
Yeah, I remember last year we talked around the idea of doing something like that. I thought it was a good idea. But the outfit, it was an outfit out of East Point that's doing work in East Point with helping, seniors cut tree limbs and different stuff that, cleaning, getting up and handling the gutters and stuff. Was this the same outfit, or is this a new outfit?
This is a different outfit. This outfit actually works in several municipalities and with several counties in the metro area, as well as not only do they provide the property maintenance service as the group that you're referencing, but they also offer home repair, which is why we are recommending them.
Well, I was in East Point at an event literally 2 weeks ago, and there were 4 council members there. It was a senior breakfast, and GenCare put it on, and they talked about the program that they had, and the seniors were really touting the services and the things that they were able to get done that they couldn't afford to do. I thought it was a good idea to put it in last year, but apparently somebody didn't think so. But I still think it's a good idea. I think that's a big benefit that residents could feel. I don't know how, would we bid this out and see if we can get an outfit that can give us the best bang for the money if we were to do it?
I'm not certain, as far as this is an organization that I have vetted, once again, with several municipalities and the county, as far as for the services and the quality of services that they provide. So these are certified instructors that are leading volunteers on projects such as roof repair, as well as, once again, for seniors providing services to help those who are disabled and may not be able to stay in their home, to create a safe home by painting and, once again, doing property work. So this is all certified individuals instructing and providing service. So I'm not sure how that would be bid out for the level of quality requested.
Well, if we did bid it out, or if we took it on face value, do you all both think this is a good service? It's something that could do the community some good? Yes? What about you? Yes? All right, well, city manager, I want this in the budget.
Well, what we usually do is create a list.
Create a list and then.
Create a list of things that we think might be added to the budget. And then at the end, we look through the list and look where we are financially, and we may have saved some money in places and so forth.
That's what we have done.
And so you're asking to add it to the
Right.
list. Is that correct, Joe?
Yep. City, so who's handling the list this year? Who's that? Okay, so you guys are taking care of the
Finance.
list. All right,
Finance should handle
okay,
it, yeah.
all right. Okay, so
Okay.
Any other questions on page 2? Hearing none, we'll move to page 3. That's just totals. Any questions on the totals? All right, we'll keep on moving.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
just a couple of commentary remarks, and I think the city council,
Mr. Hawthorne, would you mind getting a little bit closer to the microphone? Thank you so much.
I think the city council had some very good questions and comments, and I guess I'm probably getting ahead of myself, but I'm excited for the future, and I've acknowledged the great efforts of staff in putting this together. But there's also a reason that you asked me to come. In the future, won't help this year, questions on line items, even though you will have them, but we will have those answers prepared for you in advance, because I believe in a comprehensive budgeting approach that not only gives you numbers, but also gives you explanations, both individually broken down by departments, as well as the true-up of all funds, all line items. So I'll be excited to introduce that to you in the future. The order of my presenting a budget will be a little bit different than you've got this evening. Not a criticism of staff. You've got a new city manager. I believe in a base budget, what we currently do, and then I believe in what I call budget modifications. So instead of presenting that to you as kind of the balanced budget, it's something that I will ask departments to present to the city council as they will have presented to me, and before I make those recommendations of things in addition to the base budget, you will have had a chance to understand what is being recommended. So I say that only to speak of my enthusiasm of having more time with the next budget.
yes, that sounds good. That's one reason why we got you here, to reorganize things and so it flows a little more efficiently. I wanted to hear from Main Street, just in general. Ginger, I see you here.
Wait, hold on one second. Hold on one second. Hold on. We're not. I want to make sure that we don't have any other questions
go.
within economic development.
Is Main Street in economic development?
It is, but that's a separate budget. And so, does anyone have any other questions in
That's
regard
right,
to?
yeah.
I've
Okay,
got-
they're next, okay.
I'm good at this point.
Okay.
I'm good. I just see your, a couple of the positions y'all had that are not funded.
Yes, sir.
Are you all good with that, or is that, how do you,
The two positions for the
Yes.
code enforcement, yeah, we think it's necessary, given the scope and volume of the services we need to provide and the improvements. It's been mentioned how, as a hospitality city, and the condition of some of the properties over time, problem properties, but also customer service will be greatly enhanced to have a dedicated person for customer service, fielding calls, following up with responses to how they were resulted, and coordinating with our courts. It'll supplement the administrative functions. Yes, sir.
And, Michelle, why was it not recommended, or maybe I should ask interim city manager, why that wasn't an accepted.
Funded, it wasn't.
We got it on a different list. What I'm trying to say is we tried to balance the budget, so we went through and made sure we took out everything that we felt that would be to balance the budget. So we had to go through all this to balance.
Okay,
So these are things that we put on the side that, like you just stated just a few minutes ago, that we
Right.
want to go through this whole budget, where we're at, where we've taken some things out. Do we want to go back and put those items back in?
okay,
So
so,
the unfunded will come up later on the list, all of the unfunded. Okay,
That's from my understanding.
okay.
So there's gonna be a list of unfunded items for each department that we're gonna take a look at?
Well, while you're discussing it with the department, they should be, when the department is up here stating their case, they should be discussing those unfunded items that they requested. We just put them all on the list, so you're aware of them, but each department should be discussing their unfunded request.
Yeah, well, historically, that hasn't been the case. I think having a list of unfunded items from each department would help us out too, in case
You
we
have that
miss
too.
it.
We have that.
So we have those in here?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
sir.
Okay, good, all right, good deal.
yeah, no, I think that's a good way to do it.
So the unfunded list for economic development is on what page?
That's on the super, it's on,
It's,
it was right there, unfunded.
It's on that, well, I saw positions, but unfunded in
Under
general.
personnel matters and capital outlay, there are unfunded items.
Okay, so what page is that?
That's under the tab behind. You should see personnel matters and unfunded.
Okay,
So we'll get to that.
okay.
We'll
all
get to
right,
that tonight.
All right.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Yeah,
So-
there they are, okay.
Yeah, there they
All
are.
right.
All right, so we are on to Main Street. That is a two-page budget worksheet. Questions on page 1?
Ginger, I didn't have a whole lot of questions in general about the monies, because it's not a whole lot here, but I wanted to just get a feel in general in terms of how's it going down there? You know, what are you seeing? What do you think we need? Where do you think we're at? How do we compare to other main streets? Just a kind of a general feel for, you know, I consider Main Street our Peachtree Road, I guess, more or less. And how we're looking out there is important. And I see, like I saw today, I saw a couple of shops that looked like they were under construction, renovation stuff going on out there. I didn't know if, you know, what's coming. I saw an invitation to some restaurant coming up, I think, next week, or this weekend, and so on and so forth. But what are you seeing out here? Whether the empty storefront folks saying how are things looking in general? What do you think in terms of perspectives? I know when we did speak, we touched on several issues. I sat in a couple of the Main Street meetings, parts of them, and I know parking, as always, has been an issue amongst other things. But what else do you see on the horizon out there that we might need to be aware of?
Are you asking as it relates to the budget? We can come
I'm
and
just
present.
asking the Main Street
Yes,
manager, just
I
a
understand.
perspective on what
It's
she's
just we
seeing out
I didn't
here.
advise her to prepare a presentation on the Main Street,
Well, I don't want a
conditions.
presentation. I just want to get a feel for how things are going out there, just nothing formal necessarily. I want to hear from some staff about some of the things that are happening and how things are going.
The status of the programs?
Just in general, like what I asked about.
Yeah, that's an appropriate question.
Okay, well, good evening, Mayor and Council.
Could you pull the mic down, please?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Well, as you mentioned about the new business, I sent out an email this morning about a new business that's having a soft opening this Friday. It's the Main Course Restaurant that's opening. We have a few vacant properties that I've been talking to the owners, and I'm trying to work out something where they can bring the price down some, and Main Street's going well. I'm working on all the events, and it's going well. I'm meeting people, and I was just at the National Main Street Convention in Boston, and it went well. I met some Main Street managers nationwide, and we got to talk about different things that they're doing and things that were working for them.
Okay, I'm glad to hear it. And, I mean, in terms of Main Street, I'm looking at, I know we did some renovations and we're fixing on the depot there,
Yes,
and that's looking good.
yes, we're renovating the depot, and we're going to have a, my next mixer will be at the depot for all the businesses, and we're trying to renovate. Yeah, Tri-City, I'm sorry, the Tri-City mixer, that will be in June. So we're working on trying to get the depot renovated.
All right.
It's almost done. We're almost there.
I worry, you know, when I go to the restaurants and every now and then, and I'm assuming somebody's talking to those managers sometimes and stuff, and just feedback in terms of what they're seeing out here, what we can do better, in cleanliness, anything like that you're hearing from some of the tenants and business owners.
Absolutely. I'm working on power washing the sidewalks and landscaping with Public Works and Russell Landscaping. So, and the back rear of the back of the restaurants. So I'm working on all the items that I have.
All right, sounds good. Keep going.
Mayor, I have a question.
Okay, all right. Page 1?
Yeah, on page 1, line 52, 5740, we spent $152.76 so far in 2023, and we're jumping that up to 4,000.
Oh, that's building and maintenance. That's for cleaning the depot. When I started, there was no one cleaning the depot, so I asked for someone to come and clean the depot for services.
So that's like a monthly or weekly, or
This is monthly.
this is monthly?
Yes, we
Okay.
need someone to come in there monthly and clean the depot.
Good, good. Well, money well spent.
Yes.
I have a general question, that probably is there on page 1. The internet there, I've been to several meetings, and the internet has had problems working. Is that part of the,
Well, we have a Verizon, what do you call that, Mike?
Is it hotspot?
Yes, we have a Verizon Wi-Fi that we have to log on to make the internet work. But we also, I found that we have a cord for someone to plug their laptop in, which goes directly into the internet.
okay, but when we've had meetings and somebody has tried to come in, sometimes there's been problems, so
Right.
I hope that gets taken care of. I
Yes,
just think- okay.
yes, thank you.
Is the Main Street Wi-Fi functioning correctly these days?
Yes, yes it is, but you have to go onto our Wi-Fi in the office. And then, like I said, we have a Ethernet cord that you can plug in your laptop.
But in theory, if somebody had difficulty, couldn't they log on to the same Wi-Fi that any citizen can log on to going down Main Street?
They could, yes,
Okay.
yes.
That was the only question I had.
All right, page 2.
Nothing on page 2.
Nothing.
All right. We will keep on moving. Any other questions on Main Street?
Not for me.
Okay, great. We will move on.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Melton.
Thank you very much.
Move on to BIDA. Questions on page 1? Ms. Alexander,
Yes, ma'am.
the projection on the pilot income,
That's finance.
you're willing to take that on? All right. So the 2023 actual amount is 2.45 million, and we've got a projection or a recommendation for 2.33. Is that because could you explain the difference? Why we wouldn't expect that to increase?
Mayor, I think we have a collection issue.
Yes, yes, we do. But
Yeah,
I'm
and
trying to
is-
figure out if that's
that
what's
why
going
it's-
into it, or are we expecting appeals, or just
Yeah.
what's
Okay,
going into that?
We're on
number?
the same track.
Yeah. No, I definitely thought about that.
Well, the pilot income does fluctuate based on the assessment.
Yes.
So depending on the assessment from the county and the change in the millage rates, because a large part of that is the large pilot payment is assessment value dictated.
Mhm.
So could have been fluctuation based on that to cause the 100,000 that's less on comparable.
Well, actually, the 2022 amount, is that paid, it's a seasonal thing, isn't it? It's not evenly distributed across time, right?
No.
No.
It's a one-time charge for the Marriott
Right.
and for Spring Hill Suites.
And so at this point, we're at 2.459 million.
Mhm.
And so we've actually achieved more than what is recommended by city manager. Because that's recommended at 2.33 million. One would not expect the pilot to go down, even if it hadn't all been paid yet this year. One would expect it to go up above 2.4, and yet it's going down to 2.3 for the whole next year.
And, yeah, but, when you're looking at actual, what we actually budgeted is not what we recognize. What we budget is the cash we receive, because there's an amortization schedule that goes along with these pilot payments, because they were, when you initially signed the contract, though, part of it was recognized as, current assets. So we amortize those assets over 30 years, and as far as your, pilot payment goes,
That's why we-
every year, we have to basically amortize part of it that was already recognized. So although I may budget 2.4 million, I may recognize only 1.9 because 400 of that was recognized in, at the beginning of this.
So is this a budget of what the budget is, or is this supposed to be the number with the amortization subtracted?
I was referring to actual, because you mentioned something about 2022 numbers. That's my
Right.
answer to the actual. Now, with the
That's what we actually
2024,
recognized.
Philip just went to court and let him know what happened. We had to reduce our assessments by 100,000.
So with our pilot payment to Gateway Office Building 1, the assessment value doubled, and the tenant squawked. And we're in a lawsuit with them because they haven't wanted to pay the bill. The city is owned by, the property is owned by BIDA, but the attorneys for the tenant petitioned Clayton County Tax Assessor's Office for a hearing, for an appeal on the value. We asked that we be notified. We were notified, we went to the hearing. There was a change in attorneys for the tenant, so it got rescheduled. Next thing I know, they settled the case, I think about a week and a half ago, and the county assessor reduced the value on the property, I think by about $3 or $4 million, so it netted $100,000 less in revenue to the city.
Mr. Lachona?
Yes.
Based upon that, is that factoring into this number? that we're seeing in the budget?
I think it is, but I'd have to go and look at the details.
Okay, well, that would make sense.
So that would be an explanation of why it
That would
went
be the
down.
explanation, yeah. Okay,
Because that happened, yeah, a couple of weeks ago, so we made the adjustment.
okay. Any other questions on page 1?
Nothing on one.
One thing with the sales land. So the other 2 additional hotels upcoming, I think on the Roosevelt side, property site, we sold them that land, right?
The Roosevelt site.
I can barely hear you, sorry.
Tell me, excuse, I didn't hear which property you're asking
The
about.
dual hotel project on the Roosevelt side, piece of property next to E.L.
Yes.
Johnson's.
Yes, that was closed, yeah.
Okay, what did we sell that for?
I don't have that in front of me, was it?
I mean, ballpark,
I didn't have that in front of me.
ballpark.
We've been selling at $1 million an acre, so I can
Okay,
make an
think it
assumption,
was
but I
about
don't have it in front of me. I'm
Was
sorry,
it 1.9,
sir.
I think, something like that. It was close to 2 acres, wasn't it?
I'm sorry, I wasn't here for that transaction. I apologize. I didn't prepare it.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Well, with, I guess, those 2 hotels soon to come out the ground, hopefully. We got the 3rd one going. The APM cost percentage, the allocated percentage amount, I guess that's gonna be great for the other hotels, because they can share some of the burden of that. People move, repair, and upkeep in the whole nine. I see that there's a line item here for this, $50,000. Is that our?
For which
that
line
our
item? I'm
cost?
sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. See, 34, 1900. And well, back here in the detail, it has, I think, all the hotels and the office buildings that we have there sharing the cost.
Okay. And your question regarding each item?
The first 50, is that us? Or-
I don't know what you mean by is that us. I don't understand the question, sir. I apologize.
The ones below that are the different hotels and office buildings,
That's the training center?
the training.
BMW, is that what you're asking?
Okay, I said BMW. Okay, got it. Okay, I was confused in terms of which one.
I
that
see.
one
I'm
was.
sorry. I wasn't.
So once we factor in the other 3 hotels, I guess that's, everyone's cost goes down a bit, right? As they spread the cost, or how does that work?
Yes, I mean, yes, it gets a prorated not prorated, but distributed per each property, divided by the total for the cost and O&M. Well, for the.
Okay, and I also see we have rental income. I see the Marriott, the Office Gateway, Renaissance Hotel, annual rental income. Is that us renting space inside of the hotels, or?
Land lease.
Okay, those are land leases.
Yeah, so these were land lease and pilot payment in lieu of taxes structure, so that is showing the revenue received
Okay,
due to the
all right.
deal structure of these
Got it.
projects.
Okay.
Any other questions on page 1? Moving on to page 2.
Yeah, I've got a couple questions on it.
All righty, go right ahead.
The sales and marketing meeting, the 2023 actual is 1.6, it's a small number, 1,625. It's gone up to 7,800, so even if you work out the year, it'd be maybe 2,000. So what's the big increase?
So we were looking to have an event, a large event, which we didn't have last year. We're looking to have either a golf event or another where they're on site.
Good idea. And another one down in the area on, let's see, what's the line item? 1,100, 58, 1,100. That is due to what? The bond principal.
So, are you asking about all three of the items? This is the bond principal change.
Well, we went from 265,000 to 2.1 million.
Recall during the presentation, I said that there
Pardon?
was. Recall during the presentation, I did say that there were some debt service principal payments that were coming
Okay,
back.
that's the new debt service. Got it, thank you.
The deferred and some are, some of the principal payments
No,
are.
I remember it well.
Back up to the municipal planning. Does this number include the BIDA holiday gig that we throw, or where is that at in BIDA's budget here?
It's under the conventions and meetings,
Conventions and meetings?
6230. So
Okay.
we separated out the stipends, the meeting costs, and then we had a separate for the annual business award event, and then a separate item tracking the coverage, the communications coverage of that.
Okay, I'm looking at it, 6230, that's the detail right here. Is this what I'm,
Conventions, meetings?
conventions, meetings,
Yes,
annual
sir.
awards banquet?
Yes, sir.
This
So-
is the entire expenditure for the banquet?
No, only the first two line items. The first two is
Okay,
the
I see it.
streaming,
Okay.
the communications, and then there's the event with meal.
And I'm asking because I thought, and this is just my opinion, I think this year in particular, I think we need to really throw a larger event. In terms of sales of land, obviously this year, hopefully we'll get a lot of this land sold off. In terms of development, in and around the convention center, the hospitality complex, I think it's a big year. When we usually hold this in December, right?
Yes,
All right, that's what I remember.
yeah.
So, I mean, if we think about it for a minute, come December, our pedestrian bridge will be up and complete. Lottie Miller Drive will be pretty much nearly complete. The north side project will be coming out of the ground, hopefully, in December. I think this would be the year to really showcase some of the things that we're doing in terms of making sure that if we have already sold the majority of 6 West, let's say, or if we haven't, I want to bring as many developers, business interests, retailers in here as possible to showcase what we're doing, in particularly this year. I think we really need to try to blow it out and really push what we have available so that everybody really knows about it and make a really, really big deal out of this one, in particular, because I think we're going to look a whole lot more attractive come December than where we are even now. And I think we're looking pretty attractive now, but in December, sure to goodness, we're going to look pretty good. And I'd like to get as many people over here as possible and make sure that that event has as many, displays and posters and whatever of everything else you could have for it. Yeah, Jackson.
Yes, sir. I apologize for
No,
interrupting
it's
you,
fine.
but basically is that, I've been here almost 18 years, and we promised to sell property, and I think that your point is well-founded, but I think that we would be, once we sell a piece of property, and we're talking about that, I think we should come back and do a budget adjustment at that time.
Well,
That would be
I think that's a good idea.
great opportunity,
Yeah.
because then we have, like, what's my dad used to say, bird in the hand is better than,
Put
Well,
that on the list.
let's put that on the list, because coming
Yeah,
down
I think-
into.
and you're absolutely right, but once we sell a piece of property, then we can.
I think we'll be in a really good position coming down into there, if
Well,
we haven't
I
sold,
believe too, but
yeah.
I just like to have the money.
Okay, well, we want to make a big showing in terms of what we have out here by then, so I think we ought to make room for that.
I think, I really like the idea of doing some sort of signature event like a golf tournament. I know in the past, up to about $70,000 has been spent on that awards banquet. We have a number of unfilled positions in our city, and questions about how we are going to ensure that we bring some folks who are 30% below the minimum up to where they need to be paid. So, we always have to make choices about how we allocate our resources. So I think, Mr. Myers, your point is very well taken, especially given that, Ms. Fuller Bradley, what is I know that BIDA has some money that it owes to various funds. Is that about $11 million, $12 million? 12.5.
Oh, your
So-
BIDA owes a ton.
So I think it'll be a great thing when we sell land. We also have to prioritize and be very cognizant of the fact that principal on the debt service is also looming. So we've just got a lot of different priorities.
Well, I wouldn't want to wait until we sell land to make sure we throw a signature event during BIDA, during the Christmas time like we traditionally do. Now, the golf thing sounds great, but the problem with golf is most people don't play it, number one. For the last 15, 16, 17, 18 years, we've had the BIDA Christmas event, and that was our signature event that people know and expect and look forward to. I want to see us, if we're talking $40,000 potentially for a golf outing, I think that money would be better spent in that traditional event that we've had. That's the signature event that everybody knows about and would normally come to. We used to have it packed out with developers, retailers, the whole nine, all of our stakeholders in the community, and it was always an excellent, excellent event, and we would get more comments in terms of the level of class, the level of service that we had from that event than probably any other event that we ever would put on year after year after year. It's a traditional event. It's an event that the development community knows about and will attend, and I think this year in particularly would be a good year to really take that up another notch as opposed to developing a brand new project in terms of an event. Golf is great again, but I think this one would showcase what we've got done. That site's going to look ready to go with Lottie Miller just about finished, and I think it'd be better spent on this event that we traditionally have that developers know and recognize. So.
I think that's a decision we can make later on, put it on our list, take a look at it, but this is on the budget right here. We can take that up later.
And to clarify, the golf event is budgeted at 5,000, not 40. But are there any other questions on page 2?
So the golf event is 5,000? Okay. So the 40 is the total, right? That was the total requested? Was that the total?
I'm not sure what you mean by the total. I don't know where you got the 40.
Line,
I'm sorry. I see, we had for sales
It
and
is a
marketing,
total of
just
7,800.
7,800.
I'm sorry, Michelle, I couldn't hear you.
For marketing and sales, we only budgeted around 7,800. We anticipate that our commercial broker will take the bulk of the responsibility for our marketing efforts. This would just supplement that.
Marketing for
6 West.
6 West in general.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I was talking about the golf outing.
Which is anticipated for the 6 West, promotion of 6 West. The objective would be that it's an event that has a measurable impact so that there are folks who are on the site can see it and visualize how their investment, how they could visualize their investment there on the site was the thought.
All right.
I'm good.
Any other questions on page 2?
Consulting fees, I see that was zeroed out. This was one of the slots that I thought would be a good spot for, if you all remember at the last council meeting, I talked about, made a suggestion about William Moore coming in and helping us do some cataloging of some pretty valuable information and data and whatnot. I'd like to put that on the list. I think that's something that would definitely be worthwhile in the years to come, to have him come in and just kind of go through the city as a whole in terms of our property and just do an assessment of everything. So, city manager, I like that on the list as well. And I don't think that's I would guess that expense would be not a whole lot. Maybe $10,000 or under. I don't know, but I'd like you to reach out to him. I'd like you to talk to him. You know, him and Jackson work pretty close together over the years. And I think it'd be good to talk to him and see what we can get from him.
It's on the list.
All right.
Any other questions on page 2? Moving to page 3.
6031, land purchase cost, that's, what is that?
That's for any acquisition. There are a few parcels that we have not yet acquired, that for which title.
The assemblage?
Yes, sir.
Okay, got it, all right.
Page 3. Hearing none, we'll move on to the TAD. Any questions on the TAD? Ms. Alexander, I'm sorry. Did you have something?
Well, I did, before you moved on, I did want to ask about the non-funded items that you were saying that staff, if they had items on it, just to make our case here, if this was our opportunity. But in addition to the employee, the additional staffing under economic development, and it's put under a capital equipment, but the request is really regarding to relaunch the employee down payment assistant program. So that didn't make our, I'll say, cut of our balancing your budget, but it was a program that you all had authorized a few years ago. Obviously, when funding dried up, it was discontinued, and we are asking to consider refunding it with at least just a starter of potentially 2 employees. It's a down payment assistance for homes here in the city, and only eligible for employees of the city of College
How much
Park.
I think I'd like to see that added to the list because, well, Tasha is one of the successful candidates, and we're glad she's here. And we really have a difficult time bringing in new employees to the city. I could certainly go for adding it to the list.
How much are we
How
talking?
much were you asking for?
We asked for an initial amount of $20,000, which would be $10,000 per employee, with consideration to expand the program if approved.
And that's not an adder, it's zero right now. is that-
Correct. It was zeroed out with the impacts of COVID. We would just like to be able to relaunch the program for staff.
Yeah, it was an excellent program if,
I think it's a good idea. I'm assuming we tie that to tenure, obviously. In terms of employment, we give someone a down payment. I don't want them to,
Well, I
leave
don't-
2 years later.
I think it was, you were looking for a house, you were new. I mean, it may be young families that are looking for a place. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can answer that question now, or I can provide the information later.
But for depending on how, regardless of how we determine it, I think it's a good program to have, is what I'm saying.
Yes, sir.
And we need something to offer perks for new employees and get people to stay here for 5 years at least.
Correct. And to answer your question, Councilman Carn, it was a program for full-time employees who have been with the city for at least 2 years, who make at least 125% of the city of College Park, the area's AMI, with the opportunity to buy newly built or already constructed single-family townhomes or condos within the city of College Park.
Okay, and someone mentioned that this was something that you wanted, if you were looking at for a place here?
I actually was able to purchase a place in
Did she
2019
purchase it?
utilizing this
You
program.
were already on the program?
I do.
Okay,
Yes,
got
sir.
it,
I was
got it.
able to benefit and
Okay,
am
She's
here.
living
All
proof.
good deal.
Good, I'm glad you brought that up, Michelle.
On the TAD, 526150 engineering services, 22, we had 192,000, 8,000 and 23, and now it's 0. We don't expect to use that this year? Or,
To my knowledge, we didn't use any of the TAD proceeds. The prior years that was from the roads project, I believe, that it was utilized in
Okay.
request.
You said 6150?
52, 61, 60.
52, 61, 50.
I just don't see that. Okay, maybe I'm blind.
We're on tab.
Yep, we're on TAD.
That's all I had.
Any other questions on TAD?
Good.
All right, we're moving on to thank you, Ms. Alexander, Ms. Hall Garrison, Mr. Wilkerson. We're on to FAA facilities.
Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening.
Good evening.
All right, how you doing, Ryan?
City managers?
He needs a tour of your facility.
Yeah, it's great.
One of these
Yep.
days.
Yeah, I'll be glad to do it.
Yes, you really should take the tour.
Welcome, by the way.
So, questions for Mr. Wilkerson on page 1.
I guess first, Ron,
Yeah.
overall, how's it looking in there? This time last year, I know you said you were
Well,
less than 40%.
I'm a little disappointed because it doesn't appear that we're not gonna hit that 90% mark until probably August or September, something like that. I'm not sure why they're hesitant, not because of the building or anything we've done. It's their internal politics. So I don't get involved in that. But that's what I've been told, about 90% in the fall, you know.
So, in August, and that would be, you mentioned they would bring in other divisions, Social Security Administration, so on and so forth, whoever,
In fact,
IRS.
they've already brought one in, the Federal Railroad has came in. They haven't taken a lot of the space. I would estimate about 2,000 square feet. And, but yeah, that's fine. We certainly have the space to do it. And, so I understand Social Security might even come and, you know, I hear a lot of things, so.
But they're still intending to get their money's worth and try to,
Yeah, you know, they're
Fill it
still
up.
talking about spending $10 million on system furniture. And so if they do, that's really a good thing for us, the city, is that we can always renegotiate the lease. And because they're gonna want a larger term in order to pay for their investment. So I think that's good news. Everybody's happy. I mean, there's no complaints. Everybody seems to be motoring along pretty good. GSA did an inspection, and it was 100%. I'm real proud of that. They're really pleased with it. So, yeah, all in all, it's going pretty good.
okay?
Okay, I have first of all, thank you very much for being here tonight.
Oh,
We
thank you.
appreciate it, so.
Yeah, not a problem.
Miscellaneous income,
Yeah.
1900, you had 37,000 in 22, 150,000 in 23, and then you don't expect any miscellaneous income? I don't know if
I don't handle the income.
okay.
I'm sorry.
I would have to look at what that one time, it's like a one-time,
Uh-huh.
you know what it was?
I really don't.
The $120,000 that the GMA, was it GMA?
GSA.
GSA, excuse me,
Okay.
GSA. We came before you, I think, the fall, and they basically wanted us to complete a project, and they basically paid for it. So that's that one-time miscellaneous.
Oh, okay.
That's good.
All right, thank you.
That was the switchgear, by the way. but that was-
Other questions on page 1?
Let's see.
Pardon?
I said other questions on page 1.
Yeah, I have questions with regard to the air conditioning. Those are the two Liebert units.
Yeah, what that is, it's gonna take a little bit of an explanation. We have a room on the second floor, and it's
Right.
called the computer room. And in that room, it's about 2,000 square feet, and there's 3 Liebert units.
Mr. Wilkerson, would you mind bringing the microphone a little bit closer to you? Thank you so much.
And so there's 3 Liebert units. And there's approximately $10 million worth of computer equipment in this room. It's really high security, all of that. About 5 or 6 years ago, I went out and I bought parts for that equipment. It's unheard of to get 30 years. We've got 30 years of use out of those 3 Liebert units. I can't buy parts anymore. I'm at the end of the road. So what we proposed to do was we got 3 of them. And the reason we have 3 of them is that if one, they rotate. And they're always on 24/7. So we can live, we got the best one we're gonna keep, but we'd like to replace the 2 where they can rotate and we can still function. We've been very fortunate. We really have been very fortunate over the 30 years. The life of those things are only about 12 to 15 years. So God was looking after us, I'll tell you that. But it's a very sensitive room, as you can only imagine.
Oh, yeah, no question about that. We have other Liebert units there, don't we?
Smaller, nothing, these are big time. These are
the large ones.
These are the large ones, and all the air goes underneath the floor, and it's really a big operation, but, yeah, and I don't think it's in our best interest to throw the dice anymore. We need to get that handled.
I have no issue with that.
And the other thing, if you don't mind me, I'll just go ahead and go through the Capitol.
Go right ahead.
Yeah.
In the mailroom, which is downstairs, we have an air handler. And it's been with us again for 30 years, thank God. And it needs to be replaced. It's just, we can't do no more with it. It's still running, it's limping along, but it's done. The other thing, and the last and final thing, is we need to do the parking lot. And I'm not talking about putting an overlay on it. What I think we can do to buy 12 to 15 more years is to seal coat it, but fill in all the cracks. My biggest concern is the cracks. And you've got to fill them in before they get bigger cracks and they start popping. So I think we've caught it, if we can do it, if you approve it, I think we caught it in time. And we can go in there this summer and get it done like it should be. This will be the 3rd time that I've done it. And so I really encourage you to do that. That'll save us some money. And we should be able to get 12 years out of that, maybe more.
I thought we did the parking lot.
We did. We did it 15 years ago.
Oh.
You're right. You're exactly right. We did.
Well, I guess it proves how long I've been here.
Yeah, we did it 15 years ago. We sure did.
So this is all in the budget?
It's all in the budget.
Already in
Yeah. And there were some things that I wanted, we got cut, that's just how it goes. But I think we definitely need these 3 things.
Mm-hmm.
We really do.
Line 5260, heat and power. Looking at the 284 you've gone through, I guess the increase, the threefold, is that in anticipation of the Fed's 90% occupancy goal?
Exactly right. And also, Joe, what they're doing is that they're starting to order overtime for HV. Say they have late meetings, and we haven't had to do that since the pandemic for the last 3-4 years. So now they're wanting to order some overtime, so we'll have to put some extra money in there for that. We get reimbursed for that, but we have to take it on the chin at the beginning.
Explain, you
Overtime,
said ordering overtime. Is this anticipatory overtime?
No, it's a good question.
Or?
Let's say in a division, they say, listen, we're gonna be working this weekend, and we want the heat and the lights and everything on. Because Friday at 6 o'clock, 6:30, we go dark.
Gotcha.
So what happens is we turn our air handlers on in order to support that area. And then we bill them for that. It's already built in the lease, how much we have to charge them. And that's what it is. I've noticed more of that coming. So that's the reason I put some extra in there.
Okay, so they've pretty much publicly told you that after August, we're shooting for 90%. We're gonna fill this place up.
Listen, the last time I talked to you, what I told you I thought was good intel too, but they're only gonna tell me what they're gonna tell me. And,
you go by what they do. Anytime they're buying new office furniture for multiple
they
rooms,
haven't done it. They're in the planning stage.
they're planning on doing it.
Yeah.
Well, if they're looking at putting money down there, that sounds like they may be serious.
Well, they're
this
gonna
time.
stay. I believe that. I mean, I honestly believe they're gonna stay for as long as I think they've got another 10 years on their lease, but it's above and beyond that. They are realistic. They cannot go out and build what we've got.
Yeah.
They just can't do it.
Yeah.
There's nobody even gonna support them for that. So they've gotta deal with what cards they've got. And I think it's a great building.
So is the main tenant still like FAA
FAA is the
division,
main-
pretty much,
No,
right?
our main
Or is it
tenant is GSA.
GSA.
GSA is our main, and FAA is the sub, and they're not even on the list. We don't have a contractual relationship with them, just with GSA.
You know, I don't think I've ever been on a tour of that
You're more than
building.
welcome
I
to
think
come.
I'll go with Stanley.
Yeah, just don't bring any guns. No. They'll throw me in jail. No, I'll be glad to give you a walk around, absolutely. There's
It's an
certain
impressive
things I
facility.
can't take you. I can't take you.
That's a big build. How many square feet is that thing?
The big building is 250,000 square feet. The small building is 62,000.
That's about half the size.
And
of
then
the convention
daycare is
center.
about
That's big.
8,500.
Speaking of the daycare, I ran into Mr. Hill there, and he says there's a discount that he gives to government employees, but that could include College Park employees as well for daycare services.
There's a lot of politics in that, Joe, to be perfectly honest. All the airlines are trying to go after them, and I really wouldn't. You know, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
That have to get in, and that's very difficult to do. I wouldn't really go that way, to be honest.
Speaking of which, City Manager, one of the big concerns from Hartsfield-Jackson over the last couple of decades has been, you know, they have tens of thousands of employees that come in there every day. They have been asking, begging, and pleading for a large-scale daycare center close by the airport campus that would do extended hours. You know, we talk about 6 West, and I know we got plans for it, but that would be a guaranteed gold mine, game changer for these thousands of folks that are in that airport if they could get a daycare service. And College Park would be the place for it. And that's probably something not on our radar in terms of economic development, but I'm telling you, they hear that day in and week out at Hartsfield-Jackson. And I just said, whoever figures that out is going to have a pretty successful business. I mean, because that airport runs 3 shifts round the clock. So, yeah. Yeah, you know, I mean, that's a big need, and something like that would really be a game changer. That if they had extended hours or something along those lines. But just a thought. I know you're not in the daycare business.
No.
Since you got one.
I know the people, but I don't know that.
Any other questions for Mr. Wilkerson on the budget?
Yes.
Not me.
I'm good.
Okay.
Let's see. You got a custodial service increase. Is that the same for the anticipation of 90% occupancy?
Actually, what that is, there's 1 month that's missing. It's the very same amount. If you annualize it, which I did in all these, it works out that it's, I'm asking for 373. That's exactly what it was last year. There was no increase, there's nothing. And, but there's 1 month missing on that report.
So if you do fill up like you anticipate August, September,
We're gonna be okay. Same
Okay.
crew, we're
All
gonna
right.
be fine.
Okay.
We're gonna be fine,
good deal.
absolutely. I watch it like a hawk.
All right.
Any other questions for Mr. Wilkerson? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank
Appreciate
you
it.
very much.
Have a
Thank you
great
very
evening.
much. Appreciate it. Take care.
You too. All right, so we are on to personnel matters. And there are these are unfunded positions that were in information technology, economic development, and recreation facilities, and a reclassification. Ms. Fleur Bradley, will you walk us through this a little bit?
These are the listed positions that were requested that were not funded as part of the recommended budget. So we basically brought it before you all so you could make a decision on how you would like to, if you would like to fund these positions. But my budget is balanced. Just wanted to say that. We would have to determine how we would fund these positions because they are about $500,000.
Questions for Ms. Fleur Bradley? We'll start with Councilman Clay and move down the line.
Okay, so this is, we're not we didn't lose a network administrator. This is the assistant network administrator.
Yes, right? Is it network or assistant? Okay. Assistant.
You have both, right, Michael? You do have a network administrator and you have the cybersecurity?
Yes.
Okay, so this would be a second network administrator to assist.
Correct.
Okay. I'm
And you
with
need this for, sorry.
Just to refresh your memory, when I asked for reclassification of the assistant network manager into cybersecurity, you all said, Ms. Six, do you still need that position? Remember in the executive session we talked about? Right? And I said, yes, I'd like to have it back. You said, well, when the budget time comes, put it back in the budget. We'll see how it goes.
I would be inclined to add that position. It's really good to have a backup for the network person.
Yes.
The network person, well, all these people are critical and they're small in number, just a few people here.
Right. So if I didn't get that position, we were just going to double and try to do the work ourselves because we have Paul. Remember, Paul left and Paul came back.
Yes.
Well, Paul deserved to go on vacation. He deserved to take some leave. So as a team, we all pitch in and try to do the network.
And sooner or later, he may get sick with something, and hopefully not long, but yeah. So
Right.
I think the network administration is critical, cybersecurity is critical.
But I don't.
They literally saved our tail when we had the hacking attempt several years ago.
Is there a way that you could cut one of your other areas a little bit, not personnel, but cut down in some of your other areas, or is that gonna?
I could take a look. I mean, I certainly want to be conscious about what the finance director said about how we're going to fund some of these. So I'll be glad to go back and take a look and see what we can do in other areas.
Because when I look at them, I look at those, the economic development, would like to have them all, but I'd like to have a balanced budget as well, and I don't know where that money's coming from, I guess is my point, so.
I'd like to go back and look and see.
I think, I mean, it sounds like you need the admin person, but the code compliance ones, those are a little steep. And I know we did a market study in the whole nine, but I'd like to wait on those until we get an building inspections chief in here. And I'm hoping code enforcement goes back under inspections where I think it needs to be. It makes more sense there. I'd like to let whoever the new person that comes in take a look at that before we add 2 positions onto that staff and see where he's at. Maybe they can reevaluate things altogether before.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I want to wait on those 2. Rec Center, well, Parks and Rec, they'll be coming up another day, right?
Correct.
Well, I want to make sure
Well,
she talks
are we
about
trying to
that.
discuss them now, though, or are we, I'm not sure what we're doing.
That's
Well,
why my
we're just
recommendation was
talking-
pretty much
talking through
to
them.
wait until you have the list and the departments, as they come up, will discuss their unfunded items, but
Yeah.
you at least have it on, you at least have the list for each.
I thought all our, I thought all our centers had supervisors, so,
That'll be a Michelle question. I'm not sure.
okay.
Okay, we'll set that
And then we
aside.
can make that decision at the end.
Yeah,
Let
we'll
them
wait,
discuss.
we'll
Okay.
wait for recreation.
So all of these are on the radar. So we will,
Okay,
all
let's
right.
move on.
We'll move on to capital outlay.
And presumably, doesn't it make sense to discuss all the capital outlay with the departments when we're reviewing them?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's nice to have this list, but I think we're doing redundant work.
You want to get an explanation and, they can't make the case if they're not here.
It's not fair to Althea. She can't represent everybody.
Yeah. Yep, good catch. So you want to skip this?
Well, hold on one second here, because we've got one, let's see. We have, let's see, well, one coming up to discuss this evening in public information, so we'll get that one And
Well,
then,
they'll be here to talk about that one.
yep, and then we've got,
All right.
another one in legislative, so we will hit those as we go.
So we'll
There's-
cover PIO and legislative out of this list?
Yes, we later on this evening.
All right.
So we've got some unfunded ones as well for your information, and we move on to legislative. Questions on page 1?
Now, I have a question. 515020, salary overtime. We're currently expending 3,300, and we're going to 3,000. Why is overtime going down? I would expect it to be more like 4K rather than 3K. In other words, I'm saying, why shouldn't it be larger? I'm going in the opposite than normal direction. Yes.
Well, with vacancies, you have savings there, so to take it up is to increase the budget when I can move it from the vacant budget. I can move it based on what's available. So the 3,000 I think is sufficient, and when there's a vacancy, I can transfer those funds to that salary line item.
So we're saying we shouldn't have this line item at all?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying if the expenses exceed the budget, are you referring to the overtime?
Here's the thing.
You're referring to overtime?
I'm referring to overtime, correct. So why, if we expended 3.3K at this point, and we're 3/4 through the year roughly, why wouldn't we be putting in for 4K? Why would we expect that the budget for next year for this overtime would be less than this year?
The overtime that took place was when we had a position, vacancy, and I had to get the staff that were on staff to fill in.
Okay, so we now have taken care of,
Correct.
filled the staff position. That's all I wanted to hear.
Got a question on line 50. Last 4 digits are 5215.
52.
Vehicles.
Yep, vehicles, new personnel.
Yes.
60 was requested. For-
Yes, but we found a cheaper model for 40,000, but I believe it was cut to balance the budget.
Understood. So what was the vehicle going to be for?
For city hall use, for staff, I surveyed several departments that currently use their personal vehicles to handle city business, and speaking with, HR, it's a liability to do that because we don't get coverage in our personal vehicles. So it would not just be for the city clerk's office, but it'd be for several different departments in city hall.
So this would not, although it's in the legislative budget, this would not be exclusive to mayor and council
No.
and your area.
No.
I think that's a wise move from a liability standpoint.
Yeah. Question, the information business liaison, what position is that?
That's, Breland Buckler's position.
Who?
Breland Buckler.
He's in the business license office. with
Oh,
Linda.
the fellow, the guy. Yeah, okay, right, okay. Yeah. I thought that was a new position or something. All right.
Any other questions on page 1?
I'm good.
The telephone increase, 5240, is that just another staff member or additional phones or what?
It's a crazy
I believe
allocation.
that's what Mr. Hicks mentioned earlier.
Same thing there? Okay. And the equipment reduction, you asked for 12,000 worth of equipment. What were you anticipating there?
What line item?
5730. I guess 5730 and 5720. Well, I guess all three of them for that matter, 57, 10, 2. It looks like you were anticipating something that you were gonna be needing this year.
It looks like that's the, DocuSign, and that's all the things that we don't put those numbers in, that's automatically predicted for us.
Okay, all right.
Any other questions on page 1?
Not for me.
No,
All right, page 2.
I've got a question on page 2, on line 52, 6,500.
Ooh, I knew you were going there.
Election expense. We spent, back in 2022, when we had an election, we spent $12,812, and now we want $100,000 for the 2024 election, presumably.
It's actually for this year's election.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Did I say 2020? I mean, I'm sorry, I meant 2023, yeah.
Those numbers were strictly given to us by the county. They have increased their prices tremendously, and, right now it's just what they designated the amount would be.
Boy, I hate the thought of going back to running our own election,
So I
but is it worth $80,000? Maybe to you. Boy, can we challenge those numbers with the?
well, I talked about the numbers in terms of, this was the $9 per person number, right? This is what, I guess, that came to 80,000, and the 20 is just ancillary stuff, I'm assuming.
Well, that's also including Clayton County, since we would.
Okay, right, the Clayton County, so the other 20%. Back to 2022. If you can ask Fulton County a couple of questions that might help us out. At 12,812, which I find hard to believe, what was the number per registered voter for College Park? You know, so you can ask them what was their calculation. And I'm assuming they gave you that. You were here in 22, so at some point they would have given you something that said, you know, maybe it was $6 per person then, or whatever it was. I know it used to be, I saw an $11 number at one point, and then when the material we got last month was a $9 per person number in Fulton County. And I saw the $11 number per person in the AJC paper, so ask them that question about the discrepancy. I'm assuming it's prorated. They said it was prorated countywide, every individual the same amount of money. So there may be a $9 tier and an $11 tier. You know, just ask, had they ever had an $11 tier, and then ask what was the tier in 22 that led to 12,812, so we could just make sure the math was there on that. So, and again, I wanted to go with you and take a look at that list again, because I think we've got a lot of folks on that list that no longer live in the city of College Park. So I want to sit down and kind of talk with you about that and see, get your thoughts on that. The other line I saw was 5520 on this page, code amendments. See $8,000 in there. I was thinking to myself, maybe we may need a little bit more, because if we're going to be doing these multifamily overhauls, it's going to be a lot of code changes, and there's going to be some changes for the good. But I want to make sure we're covered there. If you think that's going to be enough for all of the types of changes that we're talking about.
Yeah, we get billed on all code. It's not per code amendment, it's just a one flat rate.
Oh, okay, so that's to cover everything from Unicode, so whatever changes we make.
Correct, for the year.
Okay, got it. We also talked about some business license modifications and new classifications, in particularly a multifamily business license application. And I guess that's just internal stuff, right?
Yeah. me and my
Okay.
team have worked
All
on
right,
that.
okay, all right.
Any other questions on page 2?
Copy expense, the last one there, 733.0. Is that just,
I
part of it?
For the copy in the mailroom and in you guys' office.
Okay, so the increase is just the increase for just election year, or what is it?
No, it's just, if you guys are doing extra flyers or, I don't know what's being done, but.
Okay, all right.
Questions on page 3?
Page 3. Okay, we dropped from 16, okay, supplies 7360. Requested $16,000, $12,000. Was that?
That is the youth council,
Okay,
budget that I'm asking for. It's never been asked before now.
okay, gotcha. All right.
Any other questions on page 3? All right, moving on. Ms. Fuller-Bradley? We are on to financial administration. Questions for Ms. Fuller-Bradley on page 1?
Just a disclaimer, I know everybody else's, but I don't know mine. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
You have no place to hide.
Right.
Questions for Ms. Fuller-Bradley on page 1?
I have nothing to
I'm
do.
assuming this includes the additional person that's gonna be helping fill out.
Yes, it does include the tax clerk.
Okay.
And that's 5010?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I think that was an important addition. You know, I thought to myself, I said, when I got back, you know, he sits in that little room, and as the years have gone by, it's like the room has slowly been caving in on him and crowding him with paperwork and stuff. And he does a great job, but the thought occurred to me when I got back in February. I said, wait a minute. We get a lot of money out of this little room. And with all of the blizzard of paperwork he has in there, I said, if he's been there working on his own, trying to figure out, making sure we get every dime due, I said, well, what if he misses something in there? You know, that's a lot to keep up with, and that's a lot of money. And I said, I think you probably need another hand in there to make sure we get our money's worth out of, you know, this tax digestion, what we're doing. So I'm hoping that's going to work out for you out there.
Yeah, we filled the position, and she's working perfectly fine for Philip.
You know, there are a lot of positions you have where people ask for positions, and I always look at two different categories of positions, and this is just my philosophy. There's some positions that you know are going to cost the city money, and that's just how it is. You know, if the fire chief says, I need 2 firefighters, you know that's going to cost us money. You know, with finance or someone else, if they ask for positions or the GICC, there's a potential that those may generate us more money, in a sense. You know, so I don't know. I always have different kinds of math when I look at this type of stuff, but I think that was a good deal.
Questions on page 1?
Nothing for me.
I don't see anything.
All right, page 2.
I got a question on 6170 contractual services, $10,000. Is that for the audit?
No, the audit is under accounting. That's,
It says professional services.
yes, we normally have an individual that comes in and help Roderick. He assisted with gathering our BIDA property. We had to come up with a list for the auditors that we didn't previously have, and he helped build that Excel file for us to submit to the auditor. So he comes in periodically and helps us with some items. And Roderick Taylor, he used to work for the city, so he does come in and still help us contractually with some special projects.
Okay.
Any other questions on page 2? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to
Accounting, I'm still.
yes. Questions, page 1.
Where we at?
Accounting.
County.
Nothing on page one.
Any new positions or requests?
No, the same existing positions, no new positions.
All right.
Any questions on page 2?
Same thing, 6170 contractual services there, is that,
No, that's for additional assistance if needed. Audit is 89,000. That's where the audit is recorded under,
5460?
yes, 5460 audit fees.
After,
I mean, this was for what? I mean, I guess that was where I'm going. Who's this contract with?
We normally have someone who helps us with the cash reconciliation. They work remotely. They've been working with us since I arrived here. And so he helps as far as with our cash reconciliation. Alton Myers is normally who we use. And you do see an increase of 38,000. That is, however, related to vacancies. We would use the temp agencies. So whatever savings we have in salaries, we would normally transfer to this line item if we go over, depending on the vacancies we have. We had several vacancies this year. Actually, it was 2, but we did fill 1. We currently don't have a temp, so that shouldn't increase any more. Yeah.
Althea, how many folks you got up there?
There is about 5
You got 5 up there?
in accounting. In accounting as far as the department, because I'm under financial administration.
Okay, gotcha. In terms of contract, audit fees, would you handle audits in terms of, say, mixed drinks? Like, an audit, you know, we have a lot of liquor stores, we have venues that sell alcohol. Is that the clerks? Who is that
Yes,
for that?
the clerks.
I don't know when the last time, you know, we've looked at a spot audit, but a lot of cities miss out on a whole lot of mixed drink tax and what's being poured and what's being purchased. Because essentially, isn't it kind of a volunteer situation where you just trust the number that they throw at you? Well, I really don't trust that at all, and I think we're getting shortchanged, I suspect, with a lot of these outfits. If they can scribble whatever number they want on a piece of paper. When was the last time we've had an audit in terms of a place that sells alcohol, you know, on a pretty sizable scale? And how many, when did you get, how many years have you been here?
The city clerk position, 3.5 years.
3.5.
I thought we had a service that did that.
Well, I don't know, I
I
guess.
thought we
in terms of-
contracted that out.
Not for auditing,
Yeah.
just for processing, hotel.
Yeah, but we're, you know, I always say we're pretty heavy hospitality, and I suspect that we're getting short in it. In an audit of some of these outfits, spot checking them, I think we're bringing a whole lot more money. Most of our police officers, they tell us, they say, they're not reporting what they're pouring. A lot of these outfits are not reporting what they're actually pouring.
Well, if they're cited with that, we follow up, but we don't, when we get them in, we follow up to see, but we don't get those in too often.
Well, the only way to check is to do I guess kind of a spot check or whatever the procedure is for that. And I don't even know what it would be, but I just think it'd be a good idea to look into what would be the procedure for that. And I think we need to budget for a few of those, because I suspect that, you know, if someone's just volunteering and can throw any number up there, they may tell you anything. I mean, most of our business is probably close to accurate, but I wouldn't trust it necessarily. I think we need to look. We pour too much liquor not to.
Joe, we used to have someone that would look at the wholesale billing to the establishment and run that in comparison, do an analysis on it, and run it in comparison as to what they reported that they actually sold.
Yep.
And we haven't been doing that.
No, we do that, but to say we go in and check their records and make sure they have receipts and all that.
Okay.
That's what I think.
So we're still doing that.
Yes, sir.
I think it'd be a good idea to do the on-site and pick a couple at
Okay.
random to see where we're at. But that line item takes care of stuff like that,
No,
or no?
no.
So that's gonna be
That's
in,
just the comprehensive,
okay,
audit.
that's financial, just financial audits in general, okay. Do you have money in your budget for something like that, to run a few of those?
I do not, but I tried to reclassify a position that could do that for us.
Well, I don't think we need a whole position necessarily, but I'd
We
like
already
to.
have a person in the position, so.
Oh, you already have someone in. Oh, good, okay. So, I'd like to make sure we do that a few times throughout the year. Coming into the holidays, the summer, I really want to do some on-site checking of some of these businesses just to make sure that things are going as advertised.
Yep,
Yeah.
we are. We are. Any other questions on page 2?
No questions.
No, I'm good all the way.
All right. On to purchasing. Questions on page 1.
No questions on one.
I didn't know you had another person in there with you. So it's 2 of you all?
It's Mr. Moody.
Purchasing, who's purchasing fleet administrator? Who is that?
Mr. Moody.
So the 2 positions are 1?
Yes,
Okay, all right.
yeah. It's about 5 positions wrapped into me.
I couldn't hear you.
It's about 5 positions wrapped into me
Oh, right.
That's why you're an all-star.
I hear you.
for November.
Like a Swiss Army knife, huh?
Yeah.
Right.
No
But once an
questions
all-star,
on one.
always an all-star. We got 2 of them right here.
I got no questions on
No,
one.
3.
Line 6230, conventions and meetings. I know at one point we talked about having a larger scale, how to do business in College Park. And you mentioned that you were gonna be getting with somebody in some department in terms of getting something planned out. I really want us to do one of those where
Bless you.
the public has access to it and we really go through some of the things that we're doing and what we're looking for. So I don't know where that comes into your budget or what that would cost, but when we did one years ago, it was a pretty big one, but it wasn't a big cost to it. I think we had some little snacks and had department heads come up and talk about some of the things that they purchased. And again, a lot of businesses and small businesses have no idea that you can even do business with the government. So I think it's really important to have something on a big scale to let folks know we're open for business and we want to work with local vendors and local folks. So how's that going with, and who were you, I thought you were partnering with Mercedes on that.
Looking at that and also with, what's the coalition, Mayor? With the coalition with that group.
Are you talking about the Southern Cities Economic
Yes.
Inclusion Initiative? Yes.
Correct. So working with Southern Initiative on a project that I was at a recent training to try to bring to the city. That may not cost us anything, so we're still in development to get that done.
You said recent training?
Yes,
Recent training.
yes.
So what is that? In terms of the event, is it training for the event or what?
No, training that I've gone to.
Okay. You're going to training?
It was a training, so we're trying to bring that to College Park. So we're finalizing a few details on it,
To bring training to College Park?
to bring that program to College Park.
Okay. What about the how to do business event?
That's what it's
That's
gonna
what
be.
that
Yes.
is?
But it
Oh,
will not be called that. We'll
okay.
have a catchy title to get them
I think that's a pretty catchy title, but so you're gonna come up with something else?
in. Yes.
All right, well, I want to be kept updated with it. I want to be there, I want to say a word or two, and I want folks to know that, you know, sometimes the little folks can have a shot at some of these contracts and subcontracts and bids and how to go through the processes. And this is for folks and businesses that don't know about it and how it will work. So you have a planned date for it, an estimate, ballpark?
Not yet. Working on some financial pieces, and then we'll get the process rolling.
Because you mentioned the department head that you're going to be working with this on at one of the council meetings a couple of months ago.
Well, I've been working with Tasha Ellis in that committee as well, so we have an
Tasha
initiative.
Ellis, you said?
Tasha Hall, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I know, I got so many people.
All right, well, just keep me updated on it. I want to know when it's going to be and what the plans are for it. I want to be involved.
No question.
Any other questions on page 2?
No questions.
All right.
No.
We are on to human resources.
Mayor and council.
Good evening, Dr. Baker. Got a question for you. Page 1, line 515040. I thought that you had at least one employee that lived in the city.
What's the line number again? I'm sorry.
515040.
You do.
So should that be amended?
Wait,
Or-
what line are you referencing? I'm slow.
It will be included.
Oh, utility credit. I do have one
Yes.
employee. Yes, I'm sorry.
Yes. Okay.
Give my employee her money.
Okay.
That's good to know. Were they aware of it?
She wouldn't. She knows she'd get a credit, but unfortunately, it was inverted, left off the budget.
Okay.
Yeah, she gets a credit.
5110, salary increases, they've gone up. Is that adding a person or title change?
Yes, I'm requesting a part-time position, a record retentions clerk.
Part-time, you said?
Yes, part-time.
I noticed the pension also goes up as well. Is that,
That's due to having additional staff.
okay.
We initially had I think 3 people in the position. We have 4 full-time positions now, so that's
Oh,
why the
okay,
cost went up.
Okay. So that's the same thing with the health insurance as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That answers all my questions on that.
Other questions on page 1?
Your increase in line 525730 R&M DP equipment, spent 4,000 this year, spending 11,300 next year.
Yes, sir. Those costs were added by finance and I think IT, the repair and maintenance costs.
Yeah, the DocuSign and all of that.
Yes.
Other questions on page 1?
Well,
I'm sorry.
I'm not sure what the answer is.
Now, you're asking regarding 5730. What was the line number again? I'm sorry.
5730.
Yes, those costs were,
R&M DP equipment.
right. Those costs were added, I think, by finance and IT, but I'll let her finish that.
Okay, so whoever can answer the question, I don't care, I just want an answer.
The new addition is DocuSign. Tyler Technology is, the cost of the, financial system that we utilize, New World, is allocated across all funds and departments.
So that allocation has doubled.
I guess the cost of New World has gone up.
It's only New World, it's not DocuSign.
It's
and-
DocuSign, New World, there's a breakdown, email license.
Okay, I rest my case.
Other questions on page 1?
5165 health insurance. Looks like you went from 14,800 to 46,000. That couldn't be one person there, could it?
That was the same thing that I asked.
What's the line number again, sir?
5165.
Bear with me. I think I came up here and messed up my pages.
No, he's looking at actual costs. There was a new employee added. So, and
That's what you said, that took the health insurance and the
Yeah.
pension and the salary, all 3.
And you're only halfway
New
through,
employee.
53% in used of the 14,000. You're 53% of that has been used,
yes,
and we got, what, 3 more months to go? Or what is it?
3 more months to go.
Okay, is that, I don't know how it works, but so the big increase for next year is what?
46, I'll look at I will look at the detail because they do have 4 positions in there. And if the employee only has single coverage, it still costs the city $8,000 per employee, so that would be $32,000. So that tells me that there's probably a family plan in there as well. But just looking at the number of employees and multiply that by the individual cost for a plan with one person, a single person, it's $32,000 for all 4. So, but I get what you're saying.
kinda lost me.
Actual, I'm sorry?
There was some, you kind of lost me there with the plan, but, okay, so I guess, the 14,828 right now,
That's the current, as far as, I have to look at the detail, how it's being charged out, but as far as the cost, if I have 4 employees in the department, and the single coverage is it costs the city $8,000 per single coverage, that alone is $32,000. But if I have an employee who has a family plan, that can cost the city upward of $16,000. So the $46,000 is correct. I just have to look at what that actual amount is, and to make sure that HR is properly charging it to the correct departments, because that could be an issue too. And we just had 1 employee start, so their benefits don't kick in until 60 days after.
First day after the month, 30 days, so.
okay. So the 14,800 that you have now, you've spent through a little more than half of that. Do you think you actually spend it all in the next 3 months, the other half?
I would have to look at the
Okay,
detail.
all right.
Because
Okay.
right now, that could be just 1 employee.
Right. And if not, it just rolls on over anyway, right? Yeah.
It doesn't roll over, no,
It doesn't.
no. We adopt the new budget.
All right.
Any other questions on page 1?
Nope.
Moving on to page 2.
Line 6170, contractual services. You asked for $100,000. You were given $15,000. What was that for?
Are you saying 6170?
Yes, 6170. Yeah.
Yes, 6170 is a combination of contractual services, which encompasses,
It's temps.
my page is mixed up. Contractual services would include, let me find my page here, bear with me. 6170 is temp service, $15,000. Am we looking at the same line?
Right.
Right. Just in case we have a situation, I put that in there as a buffer if I was not approved or approved for the part-time or
Gotcha.
part-time
Understood.
temp
Got it.
position
Yeah,
to
makes
offset
sense.
that.
Yep, okay. And the answer's that. All right.
Other questions on page 2? Moving on to page 3, which is just totals. So
Doesn't have anything
we
there.
are through HR and into information technology.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
job.
Dr. Baker.
Thanks. Are those words still not cold in there?
There aren't any in there.
I thought we were
Evening, Mr. Hicks, again. Councilman Clay, Councilman Allen, if you have questions on page 1.
Yeah, 5730, DP equipment. You requested 670 and was recommended 405. What are we missing there? Are we missing out on something or what?
Well, a couple of items we had over budgeted. For an example, we put all of the new software into our budget. We put $200 and some thousand in there for New World, and we took it out and we reallocated that. That was one of them.
So essentially, there's nothing that was cut. It was just, it sort
Yeah,
of.
there was some
a
big
finance-
purchases
Just
that we
moving it,
decided
yeah.
to spend on.
Gotcha.
Is that right?
that isn't a very large percentage of, to reallocate, I would have expected to go down even more.
Other questions on page 1?
Did we get an answer? I would have thought it would have gone down more if you had reallocated across other organizations.
No, finance director and I just had a sidebar, so we had several major purchases that we put into my department that we took out and we reallocated some of them. Then there was some other cuts as well in my budget.
Okay,
Right for me,
so this currently reflects the correct charges to your budget?
Yes.
Okay. I'm good, Mayor,
Okay.
with that. I don't know if Councilman
Yeah, I don't
Kermit-
want to get too far ahead while he's taking a break, but do the two of you have any questions on page 2?
Contractual services was 14, amended in 23, or the actual now is like 38,000.
6170, so what you're referring?
6170, yes, contractual services.
Right, so.
And then it's going back down to 2,000.
Yes, sir. And the reason for that is because we've gotten most of the staff that we were needing, so we don't have to use the temp services much anymore.
Okay.
Councilman Carter, do you have any questions on page 1?
Nope.
Okay. Any on page 2?
Nope.
Okay. All right.
Did you want to talk about, you had a position on here, did you, cyber security, did you want to talk about that while he's up here? Or?
Sure.
Well, this is the place to do it.
Right.
If we're gonna talk about it.
Yes, sir, the assistant network administrator's position. I thank you, Councilman Clay, for correcting that. It's not the network administrator's position. We have that. Paul Bennett came back as the assistant network administrator. I think you asked me earlier, Councilman Allen, if I could go back and look at some things before this is approved, so.
Right. Michael,
I'll
let
try
me,
to do that.
let me ask you this question. How much network work do you do in a typical day? I know that's a strange question to ask, but where I'm going with it is, if, let's say Paul gets sick, and we don't have an assistant network person, can you describe what might not get done in a given day?
Right, the back end details like programming on the firewall, programming on the VMware switches, program on the switches that are in each closet in each building. Paul does all of that. The front end stuff we can do. We could chase the trouble, see why your PC's not working, but the back end stuff, we need the network person for that.
And I guess what I see about the assistant network position is it's a redundancy. And, I mean, who else, if Paul isn't available and there isn't someone, I mean, you may be able to do some of it.
So, Mike Whittle maybe do a little bit, but.
The cybersecurity person, but there's a lot that goes on in the net. We have a very complex network.
Yes.
And I almost think it's a question of redundancy as much as it's a question of workload.
Right, it is a more of a question of redundancy, because we need to have a backup in the event, again, something happens. Paul goes on vacation, Paul decides to take another job, like he did before. He was fortunate enough to come back to College Park, but what if he get a greater offer? Then I've got to go to contractual services to get somebody with that specific skill set, or we got to try to do what we can in-house.
How much of that work now is NetPlanner doing?
Zero.
They're doing zero.
Right, NetPlanners doesn't have a network team. NetPlanners helps with the CCTV.
Pardon, oh, just CCTV?
And access control when we need them.
Okay.
Right.
Does Paul work at night or on weekends as well sometimes, or?
If we need to, yes.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's when,
So
Yes.
when he's not here,
Then Mike Whittle and I and Blue Ally, we have a company called Blue Ally that we use for managed services to help out.
yeah. I'm gonna err on, I tend to err on the side of being more conservative, more careful, and I would be inclined to fill that position, just due to the complexity of everything that we have going on right now. And we just keep piling more and more applications on the network, to run through the network, such that if the network goes down, there are a lot of things that we're now only accomplishing because we can do DocuSign and we can do routing and what have you through the network. So, my inclination would be to fill that position.
Can we add that to the list?
we'll add that to the list, but my inclination as well, because, it's not gonna get less. There's gonna be more and more work and more things that are happening that we need to check into, more and more, problems that jump up that somebody's gonna have to handle, so.
And Mike,
Just a thought, so let's just add it to the list and we'll take a look and see what we got everything else. Decide then.
you want to try to get everybody what they need. I think a lot of your stuff is the backroom stuff that a lot of folks don't see and understand what's going on or whatever. I worry about the front-facing stuff. I know I want to see this year and going into next year, I want to see residents enjoy good Wi-Fi in the parks. I want to see that develop all the way out where we got great Wi-Fi despite the overflights, which does disrupt Wi-Fi and pixelate screens from time to time, so figuring that out. I want to see better reception at the convention center. I know sometimes we don't have great reception at the convention center, so I would like to make sure that we strengthen that and figure out a way as we get more people in here, which hopefully we will get a whole lot more people in here, that we got strong signals for the thousands of phones and folks that are scrolling and posting and pasting and everything else, so I want to make sure we strengthen that up. Those are two big things I want to see that we're really covering well, so if this position helps us make sure that that front-facing stuff that residents can feel and visitors see that we're up on state-of-the-art in terms of fast and.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'd like to respond to those two, if I may. The first one, you talked about the Wi-Fi in the park, so I'm working in conjunction with Michelle Johnson. We're looking at increasing Wi-Fi in the park. As a matter of fact, we thought we had hit a home run for Zup Park and Barrett, but the company, Councilman Clay, didn't follow through with us, so we had to terminate our relationship with them. So we are looking to do that, add Wi-Fi in the park. And then secondly, you talked about increasing Wi-Fi at the convention center. So Mercedes Miller is probably going to bring a robust conversation to have more access points put in the GICC.
All right.
Okay, I got my question there.
All right, well,
Thank you.
that is information technology. Thank you so much.
Mayor, we have an addition to tonight's presentation. Ms. Ames won't be here Thursday, so we're requesting to review business license, if you don't mind, tonight.
Do we have that information?
Yes, it's the first tab on April 6th.
I don't have tabs.
Oh.
So I'm looking for Thursday nights.
Oh, you know what?
What-
It's Public Information
we're
Day.
not done
Sorry,
with-
thought we were done. That's why I ran up here.
yourself.
Yeah, I got ahead of myself,
Yeah,
sorry.
you were
Okay,
not done
everybody is talking at once, so
Public Information's next, and we're requesting to add business license. We can pull up the document. so
well, I
that-
can pull up the document too if you just tell me which folder to go to.
April,
Is it Thursday night's presentation folder?
yes, sir,
Yes.
And it's business license?
the first item.
Okay.
We're gonna have that on Thursday?
We
No.
were
We're gonna
going
have
to
that
have it on
tonight.
Thursday. Now we're going to have it tonight. Is that correct?
Okay, which one?
Well, I'm waiting on the mayor.
Why didn't we have this discussion before this moment?
Thank Mr. Jackson for.
Yes, they emailed me and I didn't answer them back, and then they asked me again, and I said, well, we'll talk about it when we got before everybody. And, then we started in on the slide and it just slipped right on by.
Okay, well, just tell me, which tab do I move up here?
It's just
No,
the
you-
next one after the public information, it just goes to the business license, which is the very next tab.
Oh, okay, all right,
It's the very, very next tab.
all right, let's do it.
But right now, we're doing public information.
Right.
Good evening, Ms. Harrison. How are you?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm doing well.
So, questions for Ms. Harrison on page 1.
I don't have any questions on page 1 for you.
Ms. Harrison, how many folks do you have totally?
Currently, I have 2 since Keisha was brought on last month officially as a city employee. So myself and Keisha, and of course, we have our contractual services. But as far as city staff, just 2.
And I saw she, three budgets.
Yes, we do have 3 budgeted, and I'm hoping to bring on a 3rd person this year.
How long has that position been open?
I'm not sure. I think maybe, I know in the last year's budget, it was in last year's budget as well. So I'm not sure exactly how long it's been open, but at least
So
from last year.
what do you think the issue is with filling it? Is it the pay not enough? What do you think the problem is?
Well, I'm not sure what the previous director was hoping for, but of course, we've had some, transition in personnel, so I'm just not sure if they weren't stable enough to bring in another person or what their ideas were. I think for me at this point, just coming in July, it was important for me to really see what this position needed to entail. I have had some discussions with HR as far as reclassifying this position, so we're still looking into that, but definitely looking to bring on a 3rd person.
So you think it needs to be reclassified? You've been here since July?
Since July, yes.
Okay, so we're coming into, all right. So you need to fill the position, I'm assuming, right?
Correct, yes,
But you think it needs to be reclassified?
potentially.
Is that yes? So, I mean, you want to reclassify it, that's why you think what hasn't been able to have been filled?
Since July, I just wanted to come in and really get acclimated to the role, so I really wasn't sure what exactly we needed in this department. So yes, we have brought Keisha in, and she is now filling the specialist position, and so the other position that is vacant is the media editor. So I'm not totally sure if we need that, because we do have Icon Filmworks and of course Warren Bond, so that's why I'm looking at
So
potentially.
you might not need that position?
Not that title, maybe reclassified, yes, but definitely a 3rd position.
All right, and I saw the young lady that came up at the meeting.
Yes.
And I said to myself, well, how is she a new employee? I've seen her for months on end.
Yes,
right?
Keisha came to us, she was a temp, and so, of course, she worked out her hours, and we definitely went on and brought her on. Yeah.
Okay, so now she's, okay, I
She's,
get it.
yes.
Okay, because I said, she's not new.
She
All right.
fit in quite well.
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
Okay, 52, 57, 20, I asked you earlier about equipment, I see it on here now. Are these additions, or are these replacements, or what are? Tell me about the
So right now, we really do not have any equipment, other than really the cameras that's set up in here. So this line item is to bring in 2 new cameras with the lights, microphones, tripods, bags, everything. Right now, of course, we've been working with Icon, and they are great with handling our larger events. But when we have smaller events and we go out in the community, we've pretty much just been using our cell phones. And so, of course, with new equipment, that's going to give us greater quality. It's also going to make the city look better by having professional equipment, so that's what that's for.
Okay.
Is that gonna mean you guys are gonna be able to cover us when we need an event that we're having and we want someone out there?
Yes, as we've been doing, we would continue to cover. We would just have better equipment to do it.
Instead of the phone.
Yeah, the phone sounds better than the phone. All right.
Any other questions on page 1?
The website, where is that in here? Is that just, that's not a line item, is that a line item, or is that just,
No, it's not a line item right now. It's just, maintenance and upkeep of the website right now, yes.
so what are we gonna do about that thing?
So definitely, we're gonna put out an RFP. That was a part of my 2-year strategic plan that I delivered back in February as far as the workshop. So we just haven't gotten that far along. Right now, we're really focusing on the communications crisis plan and the training for the senior level staff.
I thought we just could update that website and freshen it up and keep the thing going like we used to, right?
Well, we're definitely updating it with information, but as far as the actual template and software is definitely outdated, and we want to bring it up
So we need another platform.
Absolutely.
What will the new software, the updating of the software, what will that do differently? For example, you're not coding in HTML, I'm sure.
No, we're not.
I mean, I have a website and I manage my own website,
Yes.
and I find it very efficient. So what does this software, how does the way you, say, program the website differ with the newer software that you would like to have, just out of curiosity?
Yeah, so right now with the website that we have now, every single component is separate. And nothing is really ran where you could just go in and update it as you would with an updated software and website. So we literally have to go in and update everything piece by piece. And a lot of times we have to call the company as well to kind of give us some guidance, and we're losing a lot of time. It's not as simple as just going in and updating it. We have to figure it out. We have to make sure it's formatted correctly. We're trying to bring everything up to branding standards. So something that should take 20 minutes might end up taking an hour and a half by the time we get on the phone with the company and really figure out what we need to do to update it and make sure that it's formatted and published correctly.
So you can't just drag an object file
I wish.
onto the page
No, sir, we
and
cannot.
expand it to fit?
No, sir, we cannot. It's an antiquated
Oh, my God.
website. It takes a lot of time to update.
Yeah, it sure would.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, well, you definitely need to do that.
Thank you. I'm glad you agree.
Okay.
Any questions on page, any additional questions on page 1, Councilman?
Not anymore.
All
Not
right,
anymore.
page 2?
Page 2, I got one, though. Contractual services, 526170. We actually spent 70, so add another, I don't know, 25 onto it, that'd be around 100. You've got 144. What's going on?
So with the 144, of course, we have the communications crisis plan that Hemsworth is doing. Also, of course, we brought in Hemsworth Communications. So their monthly fee is a little higher than the previous contractors. James has not updated or changed his fees. So I think last year when we had the contractual, we rounded out at about 141,000. So it really wasn't much of a change, other than Hemsworth coming on and the communications crisis plan.
Okay.
Is there any way we could tell a number in terms of the viewership on CP 23?
Unfortunately, we cannot. We have looked into that. We're trying to find some other ways through Comcast to see if there's a possible way that we can get some numbers as far as viewership. We have done some significant work with that. We've brought all of the content up to date to at least 2022, 2023. We do have a running list of everything, all the content that's being aired and the time schedule as well.
Yeah,
But as far as actual the viewership, we do not have access to that at this present time.
so I guess so Comcast doesn't have a way of measuring viewership in different programs
No.
at all? They don't have a way of doing that?
Not for the government channels.
Okay, understood. Other question, I guess, is, well, I guess if it's Comcast exclusively to get CP23 to get the government channel, right?
Yes.
Could we get an indication of how many residents are subscribed to Comcast, so we at least have a range? Does that make sense?
That does make sense,
Okay,
and that's
if you
definitely
can get
something I
that
can ask
number,
about.
That'd be great. That way we would kind of know what our universe is, if it's, 2,000 people, if it's 8,000 people. And make sure, when you ask for College Park, they may give you 30337, of course, but they may also give you 30349, which extends far down into the city of South Fulton. And because that city's only 4 years old, they may still count that as College Park. So when you ask for College Park, make sure that you're specific with them, where they have an understanding of, we stop at Old Bill Cook Road, so on and so forth, we stop here, and where they can get a feel for what we want, an accurate assessment in terms of College Park residents. So I think that'd be a good idea. Is Comcast, I guess the hotels, are they all exclusive to Comcast too, as with the whole city?
I'm not sure about that.
That's another thing you might need to find out, as being the head of communications. When a hotel visitor comes into College Park, are they able to see CP23 at all of our hotels and motels? So it'd be good to find that out in terms of, again, what's our audience look like? Are the visitors seeing it? Are all of our, I mean, we have an exclusive deal with Comcast for cable services in this area, right? Does it apply to our hotels and motels? Again, something you need to find out, I understand we don't know. It's us sitting up here guessing doesn't do anybody any good. But yeah, let's get a number so we can, okay, these hotels are Comcast hotels, or if they have a separate deal from the city. So I'd like to get some numbers on that, and if you could get that'd be great, so we'd know what our audience is. In terms of the website, you can give us the number of hits on the website, right?
I can look and see what those numbers would look like. As far as how many people are actually utilizing the website, or how frequently it's being used by our residents, I can look into that.
Okay. Well, I'd like to see those numbers. And that obviously you can't curtail that by residents. I guess that's just how many people click onto the website.
Yes.
And throughout the country, I guess, or the world, I guess. But I'd like to see the numbers, how many people are visiting, last month. I'd love to see some information and data in terms of who are we reaching every month. We got a website, we got a television station, but we don't know who we're talking to. Does that make sense? It'd be good to know. Well, we got 50,000 people a month, or well, we got 500 a month. We don't know from that range, so we don't really know. So it'd be good to know. All right.
Any other questions for Ms. Harrison on her budget?
I'm good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Did you have anything that you asked for that you did not get, that you think you need?
Well, of course, as a communications director, there are lots of things that we need.
Such as?
Well, of course, I would like to have a couple more iPads. We have been going out into the community and surveying the community to figure out how they're actually getting information from the city. That was something we actually started doing the Wine Festival a couple weeks ago, just surveying our citizens. So a couple iPads would be great. I have already spoken to or mentioned about an in-house production studio for the city. I think would be absolutely amazing. And looking at potentially having a contracted graphic designer, which is actually something that I mentioned in my workshop as well, just to have some cohesiveness with our branding throughout the city. And I know a lot of departments do a lot of promoting, and we want to make sure that we're presenting excellence, and so we want those graphics to be on a certain level of excellence, and having a graphic designer would definitely assist with that.
Well, a couple things I say. I don't mind giving you a couple of iPads. Now, a production studio, I don't know about
That's
that.
what I said.
But there's something that I need as well. And by the way, if you poll some of our employees, some of those folks have graphic design talents that might surprise you. There are a lot of employees that have a lot of talents and skills that you would probably be pretty shocked. I mean, a lot of times we don't ask about that type of stuff, but it's communication. Ask. You know, go ask. You may find some of what you need in-house. What I would need, and I don't, like I said, I'm fine with giving you the iPads, but we talked about this before. The reach of communications to our residents is very, 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 very limited. We talk about the email list. It's 9,000 some odd people. I think I added about 2,000 to your list for you. But we don't really know who we're talking to. The majority of our residents are multifamily residents. Every apartment complex, and I'm speaking about the large apartment complexes, 100 units and over, 80 units and over, the big ones. We go up to about 400 units at a couple of our complexes. They all have email lists for residents. We're not reaching the folks that need to be reached most with the type of services we display and advertise on the television station. So we want to make sure we're reaching out to the right people. We don't have those lists. They would gladly give them to you. Let's reach out and make sure when we send something out, and again, I'd like to see that 9,000 list. Who are we talking to? Where did the components of that list come from? Because when we had the water crisis, for instance, we were putting things out, but we said, well, who's on this list? If we haven't talked to our multifamily community to get the list of the residents that live here, then we're missing 75% of our residents. I'm going to say it again. We're missing communications with 75% of our residents. Okay, all right, and I know I'm getting a little off tangent, but I wanted to just reiterate that, and that may not be something you could do with a couple of iPads, but maybe it'll help.
Any other questions for Ms. Harrison?
Yeah, I have a follow-up question. When you talked about a studio, you must be able to do video editing with the equipment you have now, right?
Yes, with the Mac computers that we have now, yes, we do have some video editing software on there, yes.
So what would you like to have more specifically? When you say a studio, I'm not thinking of a room, okay? I'm thinking of video editing equipment, green screen, that kind of thing. You already have a green screen, at least you used to have one.
Yes, there's a portable one, yes.
And so assuming we're not going to build you a room as a studio, what equipment would you need that you don't have now that would give you the capability that you want?
Yeah, so I would love to have some TV studios in there, definitely a desk to have potentially a news show or to even do some podcast. I would love to have the teleprompter. I would love to have the green screen with the backdrops. I would love to have a whole audio system already built into the studio, a fully functioning, ready-to-go studio that we could come in and potentially record the ward by wards, or highlight some of our staff, or bring in some of our community partners, or some of the new, restaurants that are opening up, and interview them and be able to platform them.
Okay, so, but you really do want a room then?
I do.
Okay.
That took care of that.
That took care of that.
I mean, go big or go home, right?
In Fulton County, the teleprompter, we used the iPads for those there, and they worked just fine. They had the software that would give you the scroll however you needed it, slow, fast, large print, large, small font, whatever. Yeah. So there's some things that you can do, I guess.
Right, absolutely. And we're trying to do and maximize what we presently have in hopes that that's something that we could move toward.
Well,
so yes.
I understand there's some companies that are coming in terms of businesses that do some screening and editing and stuff like that may be coming around close by. Maybe we come up with a partnership with them and utilize.
Yeah, that is actually something I've been working on. I know the GMA has a studio that we have access to potentially be able to use. Also, the Rice Center. I've had a couple of conversations with them as well about potentially being able to use some of their resources.
Well, the Rice Center, yeah, that's the Russell Family
Yes.
Center.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe reach out to them in GMA. We pay for that service.
Right.
So they have green screens in a studio?
I'm not sure if they have green screens yet, but I know they do have a studio downstairs.
Have you been over there to
Not
check
yet, but
things
we do
out?
have one scheduled.
Well, that might be good to take
Tomorrow,
a look at that.
we'll show you a studio.
She's
And,
already been
we'll,
She has? She's
be
been
able
there?
to show it to you tomorrow.
I thought you said she
That red
hasn't.
couch that you see on the commercials, okay.
yeah.
Yeah, she's already
All
she's
right.
already
Oh,
seen
yeah.
it.
I've seen that one.
So, we'll talk about it tomorrow.
Okay.
She's already been there.
Yeah.
I know, but,
Maybe if you can get us access,
So
let's do
you-
it.
Any other questions for Ms. Harrison on the
No more
budget,
questions.
though?
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
All right, we're gonna move on to business license.
But Ms. Harris doesn't have to wait to order her iPads. You do have a budget this year. Yeah, so order those iPads.
All right, questions on page 1 of business license. Good evening, Ms. Wilder.
I have no questions on
Belinda, this is just you there, right? This
page one.
So the fella in there, he's with another department, is that?
Yeah, but we tag team. Yeah, we don't leave no person out there alone. We make sure everybody gets service, so what I do.
I assumed he was under you, but, okay. All right.
The only thing I have is on 52, 57, 30, and it, again, it's on R&M DP equipment, 29,000, and it goes, I'm sure it's the same answer that we've had before with Sage and everyone else.
Right.
Yes, it is
Okay.
I do like it that you have training in there.
Yep.
Amen.
Training is good for everybody, so.
Any other questions on page 1?
Nope.
No,
Page 2.
no.
All right, Ms. Wilder, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Ms. Ames?
Yes, I had a reclassifying request for her, and if it's not put in the budget, is that going to be considered, or?
Who is her?
It was a good time. I think Ms. Ames is referring to Ms. Wilder.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
her position.
Yes, ma'am. Can you go ahead and talk about that?
You want to elaborate?
Yeah, so right now, her position is a business license clerk. And historically, that was just processing business license applications, but the position does way much more than that. It's monthly reports, it's alcohol, mixture taxes, it's hotel motel, and currently you guys are requesting an audit of all of these things, which will entail a reclassifying position of municipal revenue administrator, I think it is. It was budgeted to be about $20,000 more, that's including the benefits. But like I said, it was not funded, so we would like to consider that if possible.
An additional position or the reclassification?
Reclass.
Okay,
Reclassification.
so basically you're asking for a raise.
No, we're asking to reclassify.
Is that an increase in salary with that reclassification?
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it, a raise and
Benefits.
reclassification.
And how much was the difference?
20,000.
It's about $16,000 salary wise, but additional with the benefits, it's about $20,000.
Yeah.
Where are you at now, Belinda? This 43, is that right in line 1, the first line?
Yes, sir.
I think we just need to put it in.
Yeah,
with
just
the
put it on the
in
list.
with the
Yeah.
others.
Put it on the
on
list.
Put it on our,
All right,
on our
yeah.
list.
Okay.
And make sure we know the exact amount.
Anything else, Ms. Ames? All
I'm
right.
good.
We are adjourned at 9:46 p.m. We'll see everybody back here on Thursday.